Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the NXTGEN Racing GT3 League, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today, we continue the story of Season 4 with round 4 of 8 here in the United States of America. It is our second visit to the major country of the world, and we go to no more major an American circuit, a true classic, which arrived on the scene in 1955 and has remained the same throughout its history in terms of its layout. It is the one and only Wisconsin State Circuit of Road America, located at Elkhart Lake. This circuit is a classic in American terms, for the simple reason it combines together a great concentration of corner sequences and extended straights, and when you put the two together, what it does mean is that you naturally get some absolutely fast and ferocious racing from lap to lap and corner to corner as drivers push their limit and know that it's all about trying to charge the maximum possible top end speed, but you've also got to be smart on the brakes if you want to come out on top. And therefore there's no finer contrast when you go racing at Road America, and that means that for our drivers here, they've got to be on the ball, they've got to be smart, they've got to be consistent, and perfection is demanded every single lap if you want to come away here the victor. But as we get ready to go racing tonight, times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1 at UTC +1. We take you through your schedule, and we've seen just under 14 minutes time we're going into our qualifying session with a return to the sprint and feature race round format, as we'll see very shortly from our season calendar that's still outstanding. And after the qualifying session of 20 minutes, we'll get to see our drivers take their way to the grid for the first of our two races today. It'll be the round 4 sprint to kick off the racing, and that'll be at 8. 20 minutes in duration, and indeed all drivers absolutely fast and furious on the hammer with the throttle and the brakes, looking to come out on top, and no expected pit stops in the sprint race. And then we'll be taking a brief breather before returning at approximately what will be about 9:15 for the build up to our second race of the day. It will be the 60-minute feature race, due to kick off at approximately 9:20. And then we'll get to see the mandatory pit stop play its part, and could we see some surprises on strategy. And this circuit is no stranger to victory coming about through smart strategy, and just as much as it is through outright pace. So the simple reason around here, if you do get caught up in traffic, you may end up losing out quite considerably as you continue to make your way towards the end of the racing distance. But as we do see there, the overlay being slightly refreshed, and don't worry, you don't need to adjust your TV screen or your PC screen. That's on our end, as we're just uploading some more driver data. Plenty new drivers on the grid today. We'd also like to welcome you regardless of which of the media platforms you're tuning in by. And of course, you can catch this broadcast live by 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. And first, it's the 2 official NXTGEN Racing media platforms, of which on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing. Alternatively, at Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing and tune in live there. Or on the unofficial media platform for the broadcast, it's at twitch.tv/TX141. And who is TX141, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I will bring you all your racing action today, and indeed for the entirety of the season. Now, speaking of the season, let's make our way into that calendar. And as we can see here, we are now heading towards the halfway point. In fact, after today, we effectively crossed the halfway boundary. In the fact that we've got 8 rounds of racing ahead of us, and indeed we've had 4 of them already. We started off back on the 28th of June at the Sebring International Raceway in Florida, and we kicked off with a bang in the United States of America, and how the brilliant runway circuit definitely got to see some brilliant battles in the 3 classes. However, it was the CSA racing teams that dominated at the front of the field with their outright pace. And then in round number 2, we made our way to Japan for the Fuji International Speedway on the 12th of July, and then our second sprint and feature combination, we got to see plenty of battles, and regardless of whether it was the gold, the silver or the bronze class, there were some title turners, there's no question about it. But the key consistent there being that CSA continued to show great pace and form, but we also got to see the charge through the field of some of the NXTGEN Racing teams, and names such as Gaz Williams and also Gavan Gardener really coming to the forefront. And last time out on the 26th of July 2023 at Suzuka's Grand Prix circuit, in the first of our endurance race rounds, we got to see a nail-biting conclusion to the battle for the overall win. Whereas one name that was dominant at the Fuji circuit of CSA's Stephan Wessels, the South African driver, absolutely flying clear at the front of the field. It then came to Gavan Gardener from NXTGEN Racing Pink to take the fight to him, and it was Gardener who managed to outwit Wessels on strategy, giving himself track position. And as much as Wessels tried to push his way on through, him trying to make some daring overtakes and some brilliant side-by-side and back-and-forth racing between the two of them, must be said, clean gentleman racing between them, it was Gardener who came out on top after the 2 hours of racing. So now it's the 9th of August, and we're here at Road America for another sprint and feature combo. Limbo, after which we'll then make our way on the 23rd of August to the one and only German circuit. Some absolutely loathe it, some absolutely love it, and we're all in between in terms of our admiration for it. It's the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke, known in English as the Nürburgring Combined, which will see our drivers take to the 24-hour endurance layout of the venerable German circuit, and it will be our second endurance race round. There's going to be just as much about survival on the circuit as it is about outright pace. Indeed, we could see there another major shake-up in the championship standings. Then in round number 6, we're making our way to the United Kingdom for the one and only time this season, and that'll be for the Silverstone circuit. The Grand Prix circuit will await our drivers on the 6th of September, a sprint and feature combination, and then we'll get to see high downforce and all the cars really enacted to its maximum. And then the penultimate round of the season on the 13th of September, we'll make our way to the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, known in short as Motorsport, and the Canadian circuit there, fast and furious, and you're not going to see a circuit where the average lap speed is as rapid until you come to the season finale, and that's on the 20th of September, and it will be at Le Mans circuit, also known as the Circuit des 24 Hours du Mans in France. And there the Pays de Loire circuit will bring to a close what is going to be a fantastic running towards the end of the season, and we'll get to crown our champions there in France, a classic endurance racing circuit. Indeed, there's no other like it, and having celebrated its centenary of the 24 Hours of Le Mans recently, well, Le Mans circuit continues to live on in tradition and history. But let's take a look at those championship standings after what is 3 rounds of racing, and we start off with the Gold Drivers' Championship. And here we can see that Stephan Wessels leads the way by 10 points, with his advantage slightly cut into by Gavan Gardener's victory last time out at Suzuka, with Wessels finishing in P2 and taking the fastest lap in the race, and therefore picking up all the bonus points. It really has equalled out for the best part. Behind them, Akram Zanoun in P3 on 77 points. He continues to hold on to the right to be in P3, albeit right now the gap between him and the top 2 is starting to open up even further, and instead it looks like Benjamin McCluskey is starting to inch close in the hunt for 3rd place. The gap between himself and Zanoun is only 8 points, but McCluskey's got to be wary of the fact that Gianni Tahar moves into P5 on 53 points ahead of Matt Shorter, only ahead based on result countback, but both Tahar and Shorter are eager to pick up some major points and therefore trying to come on strong in this midpoint of the season. Victor Shimura is P7 on 51 points, the best point there of 8 points clear of Jonathan Cook, with Gaz Williams and Adam Delmont completing your top 10 there, and Delmont only 1 point clear of Chris Shorter, who currently in P11 will be expected to return to the series at some point, and they'll be on flying form to try and carve his way back up into the top 10 as soon as possible. Miguel Gutierrez Garcia in P12 on 35 points is 3 clear of Jamie Dory, with Jan Crack in P14 on 14 points, and that's how your Gold Championship stands. We then come on to the Silver class, and we can see here a difference in complexion to a small degree in the fact that we have different names at the top of the standings, but still we have 2 runaway leaders and then a 3rd place driver who is inching closer. Sergio Gonzalez Martin is the driver who right now is on fire in the fact he pulled off an absolute masterstroke of strategy last time out at Suzuka, and we're still confounded as to how he did it in order to finish ahead of the field by the best part of 18 seconds after pulling off what was the best pit stops of the season that enabled him to leapfrog the entirety of the field. Russell Fowler in P2, meanwhile, is still scratching his head with regards to how Martin did it, but he won't be scratching his head for much longer, so he'll need to focus on the work today, with the fact there's only 9 points between him and the championship leader, and then 16 points between him and Tristan Engelstad. Now, Engelstad having a difficult day at Suzuka, but one thing that did ring true was his pace in the car, and he picked up the fastest lap, and he's ahead of Lee Horn by 4 points there, with then a further 15 points to David Camano. Outside the top 5, it's 7 points to Tom Bingham, with then a further 5 points to Ben Bennyworth. Matthew Addy in P8, who unfortunately I believe has retired from this season due to personal circumstances, so we're not going to get to see the Sam Case's UK NXTGEN Racing machine charging around the circuit. We do hope he returns in a future season of the GT3 League, and he's got a 3-point advantage over Alfonso F. Marin, with Nesta de la Fuente completing your top 10 on 53 points. We can then see in what should be P11 there, albeit we have a slight misinterpretation of the standings. Paul Scott being P11 on 51 points, 2 outside the top 10, with Jack Barker in P14 on 37 points, and looking for a great success today. And it's 1 point between him and Stephen Albanese to complete your standings. Lastly, coming on to the Bronze Drivers' Championship, it's Jordan Baybois who leads the way, but the thing is, with the disastrous day at Suzuka for Baybois, and really it was a disaster of the day for most drivers in the Bronze class, it must be said, but what it does mean is that Baybois is now only a single point clear of Daniel Fritz going into tonight. Sean Scooter in P3, he's a further 7 points behind the CSA driver there, continuing to close the gap to the top 2, but even he stumbled over when he was leading. But then the man who took victory last time out, and indeed I think surprised himself, surprised everyone after chasing a podium in the NXTGEN Racing GT3 League for so long, but indeed he went 1 step further and took the win. Elwyn Sykes taking the win, has moved himself up to P4 on 93 points, and I can tell you one thing, that big grin on Sykes right now is never going going to go away. He knows he's got the result in the bag, and he'll be looking for even more results today with his advantage of 19 points over Alexander Roggenbuck, who had a very consistent drive at Suzuka, it must be said, and picked up some key points to move into P5. P6 behind it on 4 points off, on centre points there, it's Davide Favo, with further 12 points to Nigel Stock. And I had the opportunity to catch up with Nigel Stock in the build-up to today, and he was saying to me that he is looking to try and get his first win of the season, at least some more podiums after the technical issues that he had at Suzuka, which prevented him from racing. He had to miss the round as a result, but he's back in full swing today. And then we have Jorge Santos in P8 on 56 points, 2 clear of Craig Tillotson, with Leslie Lewin there, P10 on 42 points, and only 1 clear of Mark Sykes. Best of rest P11 is Mark Sykes, and he'll be looking to turn around his fortunes over the recent rounds, with John Meredith and Josh Brown completing your standings. And then we come to the Teams Championship, and here we can see at the very top, it's only 4 points between them. Chris Shorter Academy Pink lead the way ahead of KFM Motorsport Yellow, with KFM Motorsport Red close in the distance, and Chris Shorter Academy Blue not too far behind. It's only a margin there of what is the best part of it, 19 points between the top 5, with NXTGEN Racing Team Purple on 158 points, but they're only 7 clear of Performance Link Esports, and this goes to really highlight how much Suzuka has shaken up the standings after 3 rounds. Suzuka was a round we couldn't quite believe how everybody finished in the end, particularly in the silver and also the bronze classes, and the points now have been redistributed effectively, and it does mean that we've got a team championship that is very much alive. Chris Shorter Academy Grinner in P7 on 146 points, 1 clear of Quad Dash Racing, and NXTGEN Team Pink a further 5 points behind in P9, and then you do have a sizable 21 point cap to Crest Autosport to complete your top 10. In P11, best of the rest is NXTGEN Racing Team Red, and then we're looking to get some good points on the board today. At 27, they need to serve Crest Autosport if Autosport don't gain any points. Then we see FR20 Sim Racing and Meredith Racing completing your standings, and those are our championships after 3 rounds of racing. So let's talk a little bit about our circuit for today. It's the Road America Full Course, located near Elkhart Lake in Sheboygan County of the state of Wisconsin in the US of A, as we can see from the wonderful circuit map provided us by iRacing.com. Thank you to them for their track maps and their fantastic simulator to go with it. This is a circuit that brings together some of the best aspects of road racing. If you're looking for extended straights to see top-end speed being maximised, you've got plenty of them. If you're looking for highly technical quarter sequences, you've got a good number of them. And if you're looking for sweepers as well, which is all about full commitment and abusing the downforce on the car and having confidence to keep your full throttle and pedal to the metal, you've also got those. And as our drivers make the way around here, with some elevation changes thrown into the mix, it's going to be a lap which they'll need to get comfortable with very quickly. For as they charge their way across the start-finish straight through the upward rise to one of the highest points on the circuit, they'll make their way into the sweeping right-hander at turn number 1. Next, trail braking and rolling the car through the right-hander before going up towards turn number 3 via the Kinker 2. And they're heavy on the brakes, a downhill braking zone where understeer and cold tyres can really catch drivers out in the early stages of the racing. And indeed, we could see some drivers go off at turn 3, but those who avoid going off and stay on the black stuff will then make their way down the moraine sweep up towards turn number 5. Onto the brakes once again for a downhill braking zone into the sharp left-hand hairpin, and as they exit where we're expecting some plentiful overtakes to occur, then make their way quickly uphill towards turn number 6. Coming through the sharp left-hand right angle corner, it's only one wide through there, and then they make their way into Hurry Downs at turn number 7. And charging away through the right hand, it's then into perhaps the most tricky corner on the circuit, turn number 8. Where again, much like turn 6, it's a left-hand right angle corner, but the difference is at turn number 8, it tapers through a very tight apex very quickly. If they get it right, they'll make their way into the carousel, turns 9 and 10, which is all about return to full throttle through the apex of 10 as soon as possible, and charging up towards the kink. It's a flat-out run all the way out towards Canada Corner at turn number 12. Then onto the brakes, our drivers will make their way back uphill briefly through turns 13 and 13A, while heading to the final corner of turn 14, and as they exit, it's a charge onto the start-finish straight to do it all once again. Now, to give you a quick reminder of the rules before we go racing, this is a fixed setup series with car setups being provided ahead of each round by the NXTGEN Racing Administration, and drivers are permitted to change their car up to round 5 but will forfeit 50 points in doing so. We haven't heard of any car changes as of this round. Driver class-wise, they now have been finalised. They were finalised as of the conclusion of round 3, and you can see that by the red text there indicating the switch. So therefore, if we do see any driver classes now change, it will be an emergency, and most likely we will see a driver being promoted rather than being demoted. And qualifying-wise, an open qualifying format shall be used, as is the traditional sprint and feature race rounds, whereby all the drivers will be out on the circuit at the same time for the 20 minutes. As for the races shall commence via a rolling start within the designated green flag zone, and that'll be all the way up to the run of the start-finish straight. And drivers shall have one fast repair available in the sprint race that goes up to 2 for the purposes of the feature race. And in terms of the drive-through penalty, penalty limits. If our drivers pick up 15 or more instant points in the sprint, they'll gain themselves a drive-through penalty. That's increased to 25 for the feature race. And well, in terms of how the grid will be set for the feature race, it shall be a class reverse grid based on results of the sprint race, with drivers who did not finish the sprint starting from the back of their respective class. So we have the golds ahead of the silvers, ahead of the bronzes, and the driver who finished last of the given class will start at the very front of the class, presuming they finished the race. Meanwhile, the race winner will start at the back of the class, and then behind them will be the retirees. And in terms of pit stops, drivers are expected to make one mandatory pit stop in which fuel must be taken for the feature race, but changing tyres is entirely optional. Indeed, our drivers may have time to change 1 or 2 tyres, given the fact that tyres are put on the car just at the same point as fuel goes into the fuel tank. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're here to go racing, ladies and gentlemen, and as we get ourselves set and ready to charge around Road America, well, here's the big name at the front of the field in terms of overall and gold class championship. Stephan Wessels, the CSA Pink, as he makes his way into turn number 6 there. As he comes in for a left-hander, he is still the man to be, and well, we look forward to seeing how he gets on today in the Porsche 992. And I think after being beaten very slightly to the checker flag by Gavan Gardener last time out, Wessels has not let it dissuade him whatsoever, and if anything, he does like seeing the back and forth in the championships. It is a motivator when he really does have a rivalry at brewing, but right now, your championship leader, and definitely is going to be difficult to dethrone and DC from that championship. But as we do say hello there to a good number of you in the respective chats, particularly in the YouTube chat where it's very alive today. We see Sonny Bond there saying yippee, and well, good evening to you, Sonny. I hope you're doing well, and great to have you with us. And we also say hello to Catherine Meredith, who is cheering on John Meredith, husband of Catherine Meredith out, I do believe. And we do look forward to seeing how John Meredith gets on, albeit he's in the pit lane at the moment, as we do have some new drivers to introduce as of this round, and we'll come on to introducing them very shortly. You just saw one very briefly, and we'll come on to them in due course. But qualifying is now underway, ladies and gentlemen. It's 20 minutes. All of our drivers will be out on circuit, and the question is, who is going to come out on top after 20 minutes of qualifying? Well, as they all begin to charge their way out of the pit lane, let's find out. Sergio Gonzalez here, making his way on down on the limiter for a brief moment before hitting the pit exit, and in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. And which cars are we expecting here today to go quite well? Well, on paper, this should be a circuit where we will see the power cars do a little bit better, albeit getting it very wrong there. Tristan Engelstad went straight into the tyre barrier on the exit of turn 1. I think they're getting a little bit too eager with the throttle pedal. We briefly did see the car go on around, but he will take a reset to the pit lane, and meanwhile his teammate Johnny Tahar carries on, the gold class driver. But to come back to our full process with regards to the cars that should go well, the power cars entries normally do very well around the circuit. For the simple reason you've got multiple extended straights and a good number of acceleration zones. Putting the two together, it does mean that you want a car that's able to accelerate rapidly up the gearbox and get to a high top speed. And the one car that I think is going to be on the minds of many a driver today will be the Mercedes AMG Evo 2020 machine. And we can see the example here from Tahar as he makes his way from turn 6 towards turn 7. This being an absolute monster with V8 6.3 litre engine, naturally aspirated Mercedes engine, and will feature in the good number of machines for V8 equivalent in the form of the old C63 class machinery, albeit currently the Mercedes are now moving towards 4-cylinder engines with a hybrid to go with it, and well, you could say that's breaking away from tradition, and it has upset a few people in the car industry. But still, to keep the smiles on faces here, we have got the classic V8 belting its way on around circuit, and also we are expecting what is the BMW M4, and we see one of them here from a newcomer today in the silver class for Aztec Racing. It's none other than James Macias-Gal. You'll know him from the Proto GT3 Championship, and he's making his debut on to the tarmac today in the fixed GT3 Championship here as he makes his way on down into turn number 5. And the BMW M4 is quite a fast car on the straights, but also very stable and confident in the corners. The only downside with the BMW M4 is that it does have relatively weak brakes by comparison with its peers, and also it doesn't quite have the maximum top end speed that you'll see from the Mercedes. Alternatively, the wildcard machine at the moment, and that is the Ferrari. And we see why we're being piloted by NXTGEN Racing GT3 Gavan Gardener in the fact that this car is a little bit of a double-edged sword. It has some of the highest top speed you'll see in the GT3 class in iRacing. There's only one problem. It takes an eternity to get there in 6th gear, and it needs a toe to be able to do it. We have got some very long straights here, so the Ferrari drivers may be able to maximise their top end speed come the end of the start finish straight down towards turn number 5. The problem will be in the fact that they may not be able to get there unless they have the toe. But as he makes his way up towards turn number 1, we also do have a few more newcomers, so we do need to introduce, and one of whom we do look to very shortly, and I do believe we'll have on circuit on our camera, and I believe it will be Jake Pitt who we get to see. It will be Jake Pitt at the moment. Well, he's currently not out on circuit at this time, so we are waiting to find out, but we do have 2 other Aztec Racing drivers, Jake Pitt and also it's Matthew Cheverton, both in the Ford GT, and the Ford GT being a bit of a unicorn car, much like the McLaren out on circuit, and well, that will be on the minds of a good number of drivers. In fact, the Ford GT really is the straight line monster, will be a very heavy car to try and get through the corners, and it struggles in the corners compared to most. And as we now make our way towards the end of the first flying lap coming in for our drivers, we will see one of our very first laps here come on in from, I believe, no, in fact, he's going on to his first flying lap, so he's not going to be the first driver to put a lap on the board. If anything, he is going to be another newcomer who's making his way around in the gold class, and here he is in the form of Racing Lab Esports and Eric Rosev. I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw Eric put his name down on the sign-up sheet for the GT3 League as of approximately 3 or 4 days ago, I couldn't help but think that right now we have seen somebody step into the lion's den with regards to the gold class, and he is a man who I think may be able to tame the lions of the likes of Gardner, Wessels and the Shorter brothers. For the simple reason that Eric Rose is a highly decorated driver for Racing Lab Esports AM, albeit they're decorated the car with a bit of the tyre barrier, and I think just getting a bit too eager on the throttle pedal, but the point being that once he does get himself hooked in as he brings the Mercedes AMG Evo to the circuit today, he is a driver who can be very difficult to beat. It'll be interesting to see how close his pace is from the outset versus his rivals in the gold class, because let's point out here that whilst we aren't giving praise to Rosev right now, the Norwegian driver definitely no slouch when it comes to pace, as he just stays off the racing line there. At the same time, he is up against some very ferocious competition in the form of the company we previously mentioned, and a good number of drivers are continuing to rise with their pace as well, and one of those being Gaz Williams as he makes his way on down towards turn number 5. As he charges his way on down in the Porsche 992, we do say hello to a good number of you, and also tuning in the YouTube chat. More and more of you piling in, and we do say hello in particular to Stagor Living, who is cheering on Eric Rosev, saying that Racing Lab Meister. We also do say hello there too with Alex Meredith, who says looking forward to seeing some racing around this track, and well, with you on that, Alex, it's always a great circuit. We also say hello to VSEC KXT there. Good evening to VSEC. We also say hello to Michael Price, who says one, and indeed, good sir, the saying from a British TV show, I can't remember which one it is, and we also do have there, I think that's everyone at the moment. If you are tuning in and you haven't said hi, don't be shy, feel free to say hi on any of the broadcasts, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook or Twitch. We don't buy here at NXTGEN Racing. The only biting we do is on the braking point, and indeed it's also on the clutches. But as we do see Williams making his way through the carousel and up towards the kink here, with the corner where you've got to be absolutely fully committed and flat out. We'll very shortly ride on board with Salvo drives for a flying lap around here, and as we look to Akram Zanoun as he crosses the timeline, the Mercedes AMG driver heading it up towards turn 1, we jump on board with the Mercedes. So heading in towards turn number 1 here in the KFM Motorsport Red machine, and getting ready for the braking zone. Braking 100 metres from corner apex, travel braking down to 3rd gear as he exits now back on full throttle, immediately absolutely pinpoint position as he heads onto the brakes once more. 120 metres from corner apex at turn 2 due to the downhill braking zone. I noticed that a slightly slower apex by comparison, but now it's long charge all the way out towards turn number 5. You can take a breather for a brief moment and gradually bring the car over to the right hand side, but the idea is you want to try and straight line your way down this straight, and the fact it weaves and kinks slightly as he brings himself over to the right, looks to his right hand side for the brake mark of the 100 metre board, and as he comes all the way down the 2nd gear, nice light apex back on the power now, using all the runoff area. They are planning to put all 4 wheels onto that runoff area, and it's within track limits. He heads over the rise and into turn 6, a blind rise on the brakes. He comes out 6 now over to left hand for turn number 7, lift off the throttle. Will he know, in fact, full throttle commitment there, putting a wheel on the grass, but just about stays within track limits. He heads down towards the braking zone now for turn number 8. Nasty corner, as you can see the car lifting up there in the braking. It's a downhill drop, very aggressive on the brakes and also on the downshift as he comes to the carousel, lifts off there as he comes out of turn number 9, lets the car creep out in the U-shape approach to the next apex, and then returns to the 2nd apex at turn number 10, and full throttle now all the way towards turn number 11. Let's listen in. Absolutely flat out commitment there for Akron as he now makes his way up towards Canada corner at turn number 12 and into 6th gear, 161 miles an hour as he goes onto the brakes, 125 metres from the corner, and as he exits out in 2nd gear, now heading up towards turn 13 and 13A through the right into left. Over the right he goes through 13A on the curves. You can see how they unsettle the car, but he has to hit the curves to open up the corner. Now going into turn number 14 into the final corner. Turns in a little bit too early there, so he's had to correct the steering. That's cost him a bit of speed, and that's going to lose him a tenth or two in the run towards the checkered flag line. But beyond that, he will get a good lap as he heads on through. And what's it going to be for Akram Zanoon at this time, as he has set a perfect final sector and also in subsector 2. That's enough for P2. It's a stellar lap, but I think he'll feel as though if he hadn't quite made that mistake at the final corner, he could have been on provisional pole. The gap between himself and Stephan Wessels, only 800ths now as he goes on to another lap and he heads towards the end of the first half of this qualifying session. But as he comes on down, meanwhile, in the silver class, well, here is the Silver Spirit, if you will, a bit of a running joke amongst the Performance Link Esports team. In the fact, I think Russell Fowler may be the eldest, or the oldest, we should say, of the Performance Link Esports drivers on the grid this season. Well, right now, he's currently provisional pole in the silver class, by almost 0.6 of a second over Tristan English there, but more importantly, he's currently at P4 overall, and what that means is for Fowler is he goes even faster and moves himself up to P4 now in a 2:03 at 0.741 is the fact he can be starting well clear of the rest of his silver counterparts, and now giving some breathing room and making his way into what is the next race. But as he heads on down through turn number 3, meanwhile, we do look to Nigel Stott making his way on around there in the bronze class. He's currently P2, and as he makes his way on through there, 3.5 tenths down, almost 4 tenths down on Sean Scooter's original pole time with 2:04.515. It's interesting to see how we do have the silver and the gold classes quite close together in terms of relative qualifying pace, and in the bronze class by comparison a bit further off the pace, which we'd naturally expect, given you could consider our golds to be the pros, the silvers to be the pro-ams, and the bronzes to be the ams, if you will, albeit that term not necessarily representing the professionalism out on the circuit, but more their relative pace compared to others. But as we do see Stock making his way up behind there, where as well the CSA machines, I think that might be Wesley Lewin there, he's got himself in the tow of. In fact, that is Lewin, we can confirm. Well, Lewin on the personal best, and Nigel Stock is on the personal best as well, as they both make their way out the final corner. Lewin there taking plenty of rotation off the final curve. You can see just how much the rear end of that Fryway to let go. Stock here in the tow, he's going all in here to try and get the slipstream. Well, Lewin's going to cross the line. He's currently P6 in the Ferrari in the bronze class. Stock P2. Wesley Lewin does improve. Stock does not improve by comparison. So Wesley Lewin moves up to P5 as we end the first half of the qualifying session, and now move into the second half. And let's show you those overall standings here in terms of what is there, the top 35 all fit together with just over 35 drivers here today. I do believe we have 37 in attendance, but right now the top 3 are gold, and it's Chris Short who's the fastest driver out there in the 2:03.188. 4 tenths faster than Stephan Wessels with P2 time. Meanwhile in P4 we've got Russell Fowler, the current provisional at silver pole sitter, and then in the bronze class we've got Sean Scooter, who currently is P12 overall, and well, to be fair, he's got the best part of 7 places between himself and Nigel Stock, and he's got the likes of Gaz Williams, Lee Horn, Alfonso Marin, Jan Crank, Nestor Lofu, and Jamie Doyle between him and his rivals, and I think that's going to give him a lot of confidence with regards to going racing when he's all good to go. But meanwhile, we've still got to wait for the potential tosses and turns in this qualifying session. We do see Scooter making his way into the pit lane, and as he does, meanwhile, I think I can hear out the commentary with the roar of an old 6-cylinder Ford engine, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen, one of the 2 Ford GTs making its way around. The other one is in the hands of Matthew Cheverton. It's out on circuit at the moment, but this is Jake Pitt making his debut today in the silver class for Aztec Racing, and well, we couldn't ask for a more classic combination. Road America and in the 3.5 litre V6 of Ford being charged around here in the capable hands of Pitt. And well, this is a circuit, this is a car and a circuit combination that you do not forget, and a car you do not see very often. And Michael Price asking there in the YouTube chat, is it fixed or open setup? This is a fixed setup series, all the setups being the baseline, I do believe, for today. The baseline is provided by iRacing, and that's been organised by the NXTGEN Racing administrators. But as we do see it, Pitt making his way on around through what is there, turn number 8 and into 9-10. We will try and get on board with it in the Ford GT, but meanwhile, one Ford GT that's already heading around, and here is Matthew Cheverton. He's currently P29 and what is effectively P13 in the silver class, as we show you once again now the class base standings, which is where all the points are. There's no points overall position. It all comes down to class finishing position at the end of the day, and right now 2 Ford GTs out there. We've got one McLaren, the MD412C in the hands of Jamie Dory, and we'll speak of that McLaren, here it is as he makes it on through there in the gold and pink machine, when he heads on down towards when it's turn number 3 here with the V8 bi-turbo. When it's the car for a bike on here, it has been superseded by a number of machines over the course of the last 8 years, in fact almost the last decade if you will, with McLaren Reno, the 650S, then the 720S, the 720S Evo, and I do believe there are rumours even of a new GT3 machine being in the works in the near future. Right now, Dory looking to keep the McLaren very much alive as he makes his way down towards turn number 5 here, and the flames spitting out the rear exhaust there, and indeed a beautiful sight to behold, as I think he's given a bit of a toe there to Gavan Gardener to see if he can assist his teammate in moving a bit further up the order, as well as making some progress for himself. But we also do have another newcomer on the grid today. We've got plenty of newcomers, let's not forget all of them. And this is Luke Eaglin, as we can see here, the Porsche 992 Privateer, making its way down towards turn number 1. And in fact, we jump on board with him here as he takes around 4 a lap, and heading up towards turn number 1 with the Porsche braking from 159 miles an hour. And the difference is you'll see in the Porsche in this lap compared to the Mercedes lap earlier is the fact that what it lacks in top end speed, it tries to make up for in the corners, and as he can brace his way into turn number 3. Very early apex there, different line. I think he's trying to rely on the rotation of the rear engine and rear wheel drive Porsche in order to give him the apex speed he needs, but he makes his way on down towards turn number 5. But he manages to cost himself a 10, in fact backing off the lap there even, and deciding he's going to wait another opportunity rather than go for it here. So understandable, I think he feels as though that early turn in at turn number 3 has cost him the time, as we then look to Sergio Gonzalez as the number 55 driver, your silver championship leader, makes his way on through what is, I do believe, unless I'm mistaken, turn number 3, and up towards 5 he goes as he charges his way on down towards turn number 5. We're doing everything right now in his order in order to be able to try and go a little bit further, albeit P5. He is the sole Ferrari inside the silver top 10, so it does look as though the Ferrari right now perhaps not as strong as we have thought initially with regards to his qualifying pace. We are being proven wrong here, but meanwhile we can see in the top 3 it is BMW, Porsche, and then Mercedes. So the German manufacturers really dominated in the silver class, and also the same with the gold class, with what is their top 8 all being of either Porsche, Mercedes, and the one BMW. Before the year you come to a Ferrari in P9. And then meanwhile in the bronze class it's a BMW on the original pole at the moment with Fritz in P2. Speaking of Daniel Fritz, it's very early hours of the morning for the Australian driver at home, but right now he's on the simulator and it is a relatively nice conditions here at Road America. And Daniel Fritz, I think, knowing that he missed out on a win at Suzuka, given a late mistake which enabled Elvin Sykes to come through to take the victory, and Fritz is not going to let it go today. I think his target as a minimum will be to be on the podium once again. And you see currently 3/10 of the scooters at pole lap with a 204.515. That delta of the scooter is coming down, and it is a sizable delta still, but one that I think Fritz won't be too upset about, given the fact that his target will be to try and get the car to P2 as minimum in the class. As he makes his way on around through turn number 9 and 10. We do look from him to Stefan Albanese Senior, and well, the DRS eSport driver coming through turn 10 at the moment, not through turn number 10, which is Aid in P10, coming through turn number 14. As he heads up the hill, he's going to pull off the race in line. I think they're just trying to get a little bit more tyre temperature in the car and get a feel, but also conscious of the fact that given the distance over to Alex Rodenbach, that they're in different classes, so I don't think he's going to mind that too much. We'll get Alex Rodenbach right now down in what is P35 overall, the 10 in the bronze class, as we understand it. So therefore, for Rodenbach, he's still trying to find a bit more time out there. It's Lamborghini Huracan Evo driver, and well, the Evo version of the Huracan, a car that continues to go racing, albeit in the Evo 2 guys now. And the way you can tell the difference between the two of them is the fact that it does have the roof scoop in order to provide further cooling air, whereas the Evo 1, which you're seeing on your screen currently, does not. They're both powered by the same Audi V10 engine. Indeed, don't let anybody know there's an Audi engine in the back of that. Lamborghini might get a little bit offended. But joking aside, a motorsport snobbery being a thing, let's put that outside the door right now. We can see Rodenbach making his way up through turn 5 and up towards 6. And the Huracan, to be fair, a very good jack of all trades machine. For the simple reason it's got a little bit of everything, but it could hold it back in terms of top end speed as he makes his way up through turn number 7. We're We're coming towards the pinch point of qualifying now, ladies and gentlemen, and the fact that we are 3 minutes away from going to the 20-minute mark and the checkered flag being out. And we promised you earlier a lap on board with one of the Ford GTs. Was producing NXTGEN Racing GT3 making his way into the final corner. Let's get ready to ride on board here and hear the roar of 3.5 litres of American muscle as he makes his way onwards towards the start-finish line. Listen to the engine there for a brief moment, making his way into turn one and braking as late as he dares there, nicely hooked up into the apex and powering out in third gear up to fourth immediately. They're having a short shift in order to control the power of the car and braking down into turn number two, braking extremely late there at turn three. In fact, braking at about 90 meters and just making the apex. This is a very heavy car, this Ford GT, so if you can get it stopped, it will stop very nicely. But the momentum it carries into the braking zone is something else, and as he heads down towards turn number five, bringing the car over to the right hand side now and onto the brakes there, 100 meters from corner apex, really open in the corner. You can see they use the ball, the runoff there on entries. Back in the bronze class goes to P6 off camera, but as Pit breaks his way into turn six now, plenty of rotation of the car. I think that brake bias with his rearward as he can get it in order to get the car to rotate into turn seven. Lift off the throttle there, plenty of apex curves to help push the car around. Now coming down towards turn number 8, the corner that can really make or break a lap. Comes through left-hander, second gear on the power, fighting at the steering wheel, takes a little bit of grass with him. I think still a valid lap as he comes down through 9, a bit of a late apex then, in fact missed his apex in 9 to south the run through turn number 10 to different lines here, and as Pit getting a bit too early towards the apex in turn number 10, he's got a car in front that's going to move aside. That's one of Mercedes, and as he heads in to the kink. And to lift off there, just not enough confidence in the front end of the car to be able to go flat out. That's going to cost him a bit of speed, but still look at that speed gauge right now, all the way up to 159. If he'd been able to go flat out, I think that would have been 162 or 163 by the braking point. Instead, clearing Canada the corner and up towards a turn at 13. He goes through the left-hander, balancing the bottom as much as he can, using the weight of the car to keep him stable as he heads into the final corner. Really finding the brakes there. The car literally serpentine from left to right under braking, and will Pit in the end. It does bring it back together. Hits the rev limiter slightly in third gear, but it is a bit of a scrappy end to otherwise what has been a very aggressive lap from Pit. And as he heads across the line, he's currently P14 in the silver class. What's it going to be this time around as he moves further up the order? And well, the lap, in fact, not a valid lap due to the run wide at one point, and therefore he's got to try and go once again. But meanwhile, speaking of not going at once again, we do see Matt Shorter out circuit at the moment. But his brother Chris, he's currently at provisional pole in the gold class and overall with a 202.904, the only driver to set a 202 in this qualifying session. With Stephan Wessels 4.5 tenths down, Shorter has decided, that's Chris Shorter, has decided to put it in the pit lane, and Stephan Wessels has done the same. I think they'll feel as though they've got the pole position and indeed the front row lockout in the bag for CSA, but we'll have to wait and see as the clock strikes 20 minutes. It's time for the end of qualifying, but who's on a fast lap as Matt Shorter goes wide? That'll be in a lap aborted in the end. He makes his way into the pit lane immediately. Meanwhile, we see Akram Sanoon's just gone on to a lap, so therefore he's going to work the last drivers to head on around. Meanwhile, we do look back to Eric Rosev here as he comes out the final corner. Junskud has gone purple in subsector 5 of the bronze class. We'll follow him to the timing line. That's good to go even faster for bronze pole. It's a 204.515 so far, his own time to beat. He is only half a tenth faster than Nigel Stock, who calls it down and comes into the pit lane. So Stock will not be taking bronze pole. But meanwhile, Gavan Gardener making his way towards the end of the lap, coming into turn at number 14 now in the Ferrari. Currently P7 and only what is there, a tenth and a half of a Jonathan Cook. I wonder if he'll feel as though he can make his way into P6, albeit this lap he's had some improvement in the first half of the lap, but the second half of the lap has been a bit back and forth in terms of finding time. He crosses the time line, he moves up to P5 there, and in fact he jumps ahead of both Rosev and Cook, so he dethrones both of them, and that's a nice last-ditch effort from Gardner. Meanwhile, it is Russell Fowler who takes a 203.494. He puts himself P3 on the overall grid as the silver pole sitter, unless Alfonso Marin can find a magical lap here to come back at Fowler. But I think it may be a bit too late in the day. We'll have to wait and see. But as all of our drivers right now get themselves parked up and whatnot, we've only got a couple more out. They're currently on laps, including with Matthew Shelton, the Ford GT. And we also do have Akram Sanoon heading towards the timeline. And well, this has not been too much of an improvement lap, but he has got the Gavan Motorsport yellow train. I think he's leaving across it to try and give everybody a tow. Nesta Dufu does not improve from P9 in the silver class, and neither does over the other car in that group there of, I think, what was Gonzalez. So that is their qualifying session done and dusted, and the last laps then coming in from Matthew Cheverton as he comes across the line there. He find a way to improve from P13. The Ford GT's right at the bottom of the silver class, and then we will have Alex Rogenbach who's coming to the pit lane. So that's qualifying done and dusted, ladies and gentlemen. Overall pole has gone to Chris Shorter and gold pole with it. Meanwhile, we can see in terms of the overall standings, silver pole position has gone to P3 overall, and it's Russell Fowler who takes that crown. And then in the bronze class, it's a P18 overall, but pole position in the bronze class for Sean Scudder in the end only took it by half a tenth over Nigel Stock, who definitely living up to what he was telling me earlier today in terms of fighting for podiums in this qualifying session. Nigel Stock has gone all in for it, but it's been an interesting qualifying session, and Chris Shorter on his return to the grid immediately making his impressions felt. But of course, qualifying is just one part of the day. We've got two races to come, and that's where all the money is in terms of the major points in the championship, and who will come out on top come the end of the first race, and with it the checker flag. Well, very shortly we're going to find out, as all of our drivers right now part themselves up. Indeed, we are only moments away from going to the grid. But as our drivers now make their way to the grid, this is how they line up for our first race of the day. Chris Shorter takes overall and gold pole position for CSA Blue, joined on the front row by sister team CSA Pink's Stephan Wessels. On row number 2, it's silver pole sitter Russell Fowler, who starts P3 for Performance Link Esports. He's joined by CSA Green's Matt Shorter, who starts P4. On the third row of the grid, it's Akram Zanoon for KFM Motorsport Red, who is joined by NXTGEN Racing Team Pink's Gavan Gardener. And then we have Eric Rosev and Jonathan Cook, who line up together side by side on the fourth row of the grid. And keep your eyes on Eric Rosev in the fact, on his debut, he'll be definitely trying to cut his way through a few of the drivers as soon as possible for Racing App Esports Am. Whereas Performance Link Esports Jonathan Cook is not one to count out either, in the fact that he's very fast when he's in the race. Completing the top 10 on row number 5 is the silver pair of Alfonso Marin for KFM Motorsport Red and Quad Dash Racing's Tristan Engelstad, with Gianni Tahar for Quad Dash Racing starting P11, the Dutchman being joined on the 6th row by Sergio Gonzalez for KFM Motorsport Yellow. And then we see behind them on the grid on row number 7, Gaz Williams for NextGen Racing at Team Purple, and he's joined by Lee Horn for NextGen Racing. And it looks as though Gaz Williams having a difficult qualifying session, but by comparison, Lee Horn having quite a strong qualifying session and enjoying what is effectively P5 in the silver class on the grid. On row number 8 behind him, it's Jan Krak for Team Racing Netherlands and Jamie Dory for NextGen Racing at Team Pink. And on row number 9, it's David Kamano for KFM Motorsport Red, joined by your bronze pole sitter starting P18 from South Africa, it's CSA Blues Sean Scudder. Completing the top 20 in P19, it's Louis Eagleton on his debut at the privateer, and he's joined on that row by Nigel Stott, the Crest Autosport driver, who missed out on bronze pole by only half a tenth, but he's definitely going to go all for it now in the race. Stephan Albanese Senior starts P21 on the 11th row of the grid for DRS Esports. He's joined by Nestor De La Feu for KFM Motorsport Yellow. And on a row at number 12, it's the silver bronze pair of Ben Biddyworth for Crest Autosport and Whiskey Runners Racing's Daniel Fritz. On row number 13, we have Elwin Sykes for CSA Green, who is joined by James Smadsgasgal. And behind the CSA Green and Aztec Racing drivers will be Jack Barker for Made for Racing and Mark Sykes for NextGen Racing. Team Red. And then we have completing the top 30 there on row number 15, Aztec Racing's Matthew Cheverton, who is joined by Alex Rogenbach, the privateer, in fact, having one of his strongest qualifying performances of the season. And the German driver definitely going strongly here at Road America, giving himself effectively a P6 in the bronze class in qualifying. Then on row number 16, it's Davide Favo, P31 for CSA Blue, and the South African Jimmy joined by the Welshman of Jake Pitt, who starts P32 for Aztec Racing. And then we have Craig Tillerston, who starts P33 for FR20 Sim Racing, and he's joined on row number 17 by Wesley Lewin, the CSA Pink driver. And then behind them on what is the 18th row of the grid, we have Jorge Santos, and well, he'll be racing for KFM Motorsport. And he won't be racing for KFM Motorsport, I do apologise, he's racing as a privateer, and it will be then John Meredith who will be starting at P36 behind him for Meredith Racing. And then on the final row of the grid, it will be Victor Shimura starts P37, all by his lonesome for KFM Motorsport Yellow, not getting a qualifying time on the board, but the gold driver will know he's got it all to do from the back of the field, and well, can he find his way through from the 19th row? That'll be the challenge that confronts him. But as our drivers make the way on around here on the formation lap, it's a full formation lap at Road America. We don't do things by halves in the US of A, and as they make the way down towards turn number 5, it gives everybody an opportunity now to try and get themselves up to temperature in terms of tyres, and also with regards to the brakes. We say hello to Violet in the YouTube chat there, and as our drivers make the way on down, well, right now for Chris Shorter, it's a return to old ways in terms of being on the front row, but is it a return to the top step of the podium? That will be the thing that's on his mind most. And meanwhile, looking a bit further down the order, well, we do look to Alfonso Marin as we ride on board here with the Mercedes AMG driver, having qualified effecting P3 in the silver class. A strong qualifying section from Alfonso Marin, there's no question about that, and I think he'll be very pleased with the way qualifying has gone. But the big question that will be on his mind is just how far can he take this result now when we do go green flag racing, and as our drivers get themselves all positioned here going into the tightest section of what is the formation lap and the lap as a whole. Well, Alfonso Marin will know you can't need too much weaving from side to side, but you'll need that tyre temperature and that brake temperature early on. Particularly, he'll need it in the rear tyres of the Mercedes. If he tries to get the power down in third and second gear on cold tyres, this car is going to feel like an absolute juggernaut to turn through the corners. And the fact, one moment it won't have the grip, and then suddenly the rear tyres are going to light up incredibly hot and fast. And well, as he tries to get the power down there, he's going to do a lot of counter steer in order to get disappointed in the straight line. But as we do look from him to a little bit further down the order, and in particular we look towards the back of the field to John Meredith, who'll start in right back there in P36. But I think the Meredith racing driver for the United Kingdom will know that it's all about the race and just taking it slow and steady. And well, we look forward to seeing how he can potentially carve his way through the field. He's going to do a bit of a battle with the Audi R8 of Jorge Santos. The two of them are rivals. We've got to see plenty of battling from them earlier on in the season. Cars have made the way past the cameraman right now stationary, and absolutely pleasant to see almost 40 GT3 machines on the grid today. And we look to one of a bit further up in the mid-pack, left Jan Crack, the Dutchman here, having a bit of a difficult qualifying session, one of his weaker qualifying sessions this season in the gold class. But I think he'll be thinking more about now how he can turn that crown upside down and potentially secure himself a win here. Well, we're only a moment away from finding out how things are going to go today, as everybody is now getting themselves set for the final corner. And as we look to Chris Shorter, he'll very shortly let the safety car pull away, and he'll take us to the green flag for 20 minutes of racing in the sprint race at Road America. Lights out, and away we go for our first race of the day. Shorter takes it all the way to the green flag line, and as they make their way down towards turn number one, you can see here everybody stacking up behind the medal already. Look at Russell Fowler looking up the inside there versus Matt Shorter and also Stephan Wessels, but Wessels in the end and now carrying all the speed on the outside line as they make their way from turn number one and down towards two. All the drivers surviving there in the top 20 at the minimum as they come down. We had a spin for a couple of drives further back, but everyone comes onto the brakes here, multiple two wide into turn number three. Arrows are there trying to make some ground early on as well, and we've got a car running wide. That's Lee Hornet taking a bit of a rallycross approach to the exit of turn 3 as he now rejoins. He drops down a P5 in the silver class, but most drivers survive in the opening few corners. We have had a couple of cars towed to the pit lane at turn number 1. We'll give you an update on what exactly happened there shortly, but meanwhile we look from in the midfield back up to Matt Short here, who's in fact handled both what is there Russell Fowler and also Akram Tanoon that come on through, and Akram Tanoon in particular has moved into P3 for Gavan Motorsport Red, and what a time to make some early gains here for the number 94 Mercedes. As meanwhile, a bit further back, we've got cars off there at turn 6. We had a further incident, and we can see Gianni Tarr side by side with Sean Splitter. It's been a difficult start today for Tarr. He's lost 2 places in the gold class, and we're 2 places overall as he comes on down towards turn number 8. And as he goes for a left-hander, he's got to give the space there to Sean Splitter, who right now has got plenty of silvers behind him. And we've got a car off, and that's James Smanskinskow being catapulted into the gravel there, and I'm not quite sure how that's happened with the Aztec Racing driver. It's gone so very, very wrong for the 660 BMW M4 as he rejoins now. He's got a lot of work to do to recover this race, but meanwhile, up towards the front of the field, it's not calming down at the moment. It's Russell Fowler, your silver leader, as Matt Shorter up the inside here in a two-counter corner. And well, Matt Shorter is going to make very quick work there with the BMW M4. I wonder if we could see Fowler come back in with the run in towards the next set of corners. As we got Tristan Engelstad side by side here with Sergio Gonzalez. Gonzalez going around the outside of Tristan Engelstad to take back P2 in the silver class, P9 overall. And as they come towards the end of the first lap under race conditions, well, right now it's getting very close for comfort inside the top 10. As we do have 3 silver drivers all back in the top 10 places, and then the the rest of gold. But as they make the way across the timeline, being settled down for a brief moment, albeit I think here for just Engelstad, he's not going to want to settle in behind Gonzalez. He wants the place back. Gonzalez looks to the middle of the road. Engelstad says I can go further to the inside, and onto the brakes they both go here. It's going to be very close to the apex. Engelstad given enough space at the end of the day, but has to back out slightly through the fear of potentially taking the rear quarter panel of what is Gonzalez. And now Jamie Dory says, okay, I've got the momentum, I'm going in. He goes in hot on the inside, and Dory gets it stopped just in time as they exit the corner and make their way down towards turn number 5. Nice move from Jamie Dory, and I think Engelstad now, we wondering how he can potentially use this situation to come back. He's going to go in the toe and immediately attack now as they head down towards turn 5. And I wonder here where Engelstad may be worth just backing off and playing the game of trying to let Dory bring him towards Gonzalez, but he's committed to the move into turn 5. Side by side they clear the corner, but the problem is now as they make the way up the hill, and the fact that Dory's been boxed in by slightly wayward Gonzalez, who ran wide. Engelstad still on the inside into turn 6. As they come from left into right, that's going to be Engelstad on the outside. Dory will have the better rotation than McLaren on that inside line as well. He can stand with authority on the corner, and Engelstad made to way as meanwhile Gaz Williams takes a look up the inside. Can't quite find it too far back to try and make a lunge on the break in. As they now begin to settle down to a degree. And meanwhile, in the bronze class, it's gone wrong for some and great for others. One of the biggest losers in the class is Nigel Stocks. He now picks back up another place, lost 3 places in the start, recovers the P4 in the bronze class, making the move on Jorge Santos. And Santos, one of the biggest gainers in the class, 5 gain. But right now, the hero of the bronze class has to be said is CSA Pink's Wesley Lewin, as the South African drivers moved all the way from P9 up to P2. We will get a replay of what exactly happened at the start of the race very shortly to explain, as we've got a car in the wall. That's Jamie Dory who's gone round in the barrier. Where's the run down towards the Canada corner? It's not quite sure what's happened to Jamie Dory, other than the fact it's gone very wrong very quickly for him. But meanwhile, looking for Wesley Lewin, sending his praises. We look back to other Crystal Water Sport machines. We went from Nigel Stock to Lewin, and now we're going back to the other Crystal Water Sport machine of Ben Bennyworth. And as he comes out the final corner, he's got this little Flente behind him as they make the way up towards the checkered line once again. And now it's going to be the task of Bennyworth to try and fend off another BMW. But indeed, we're only 4.5 minutes into this 20-minute race. We're not even a quarter of the way there. We've got plenty still to go. And we're speaking of going for it, Lee Horn now under pressure from David Camano. Meanwhile, we can see Bennyworth under pressure now from Frente as they come through turn number 1. Frente on the inside closes the door off nice in corner exit there. Albeit has to get his elbows out to say to Bennyworth, this place is mine. And Bennyworth does not have a response other than to tuck him behind as well. Car off, and I believe that car throws Elwin Sykes, who's effectively a lap down. I think also Mark Sykes had a trip off the road. But meanwhile, we look here to a three-way battle for his P13 overall, as Sean Scooter in the foreground on the right of your picture, Lee Horn on the left of your picture, and that's David Camano who's fallen in behind the pair of them as the Gavan Motorsport red driver there being mugged to places, and I think not feeling comfortable with the freeway fight into the corner. Instead he will go the inside. Lee Horn, it's a very last minute move there from David Camano, but to be fair, he tried to pull it off and almost succeeded. But as we look back through the Porsche 902 of the NXTGEN Racing driver of Horn right now, he'll be looking more and more in his rearview mirror and in his wing mirrors and wondering when Camano's going to try and send it next. That would have been quite the sending off the move if he'd gone for it and committed to it, Camano. But in the end, I think Lee Horn giving him enough space, but also giving Camano the opportunity to back out as they made the way through turn number 6 as they come through the carousel and up towards turn number 11 they go. Flat out here now into the corner, dirty on Camano's car. That's going to cost him a bit of rotation, and he may have to lift off there in order to compensate for it. Horn will feel safe for the moment, of course. We'll be able to take some of the highest average apex speed through the kickback comparison with speed, given its rotational nature. And as they make the way into Canada corner right now, Camano immediately trying to close back up on the brakes. This one taking a bit too much apex curve, but also looking to move on Scooter here as he looks around the outside into 13A. As they come for a left-hander, he goes for it. Scooter briefly disappears and will rematerialise from the ether. We believe that Scooter has rematerialised behind him as Horn goes deep. He goes over the bumps there in the grass. Camano looks to the inside and David Camano, playing it smart, playing it calm, playing it sensible, gets one place and Nestor de la Fuente gains the other as they come on down here. 2 silver Gavan Motorsport drivers, 1 red, 1 yellow. They both gain a place each. And as they make the way in towards turn number 1, we're now going to see potentially Ben Bennyworth setting his sights on Sean Scooter into the opening corner, but it's not to be for him as they come off. And now we look a little bit further back to Jack Barker, who's chasing after Jay Peart as they make the way up towards turn number 3. It's good Barker on the inside for made for a race, and this is for P8 in the silver class, where it's a classic move there into turn 3. Pitt's going to try and go for the cutback, however, as they make the way off the corner. You can see there already that Ford right now gaining massively as they make their way on down the stretch up towards turn number 5. And Barker, I think, will be looking at his mirrors and thinking, will Pitt commit to it? Well, he is going to look for his pit. Barker gradually brings the car over into the centre of the road, but Pitt's there. Pitt's going all in on the move, and meanwhile Wesley Lewin watches from behind. Meanwhile, Pitt goes deep. Barker follows him deeper, however, and I think he's trying to set up a cut back there. Couldn't quite get it on the brakes, and Wesley Lewin right now on the back of his silver class rival, albeit it does look as though Wesley Lewin in the bronze class here will want to make some progress. In fact, he's got Davide Farbo behind him, the CSA pink driver, will have the CSA blue machine of the company, and will Farbo just let Lewin hold on to this P2 for his best performance of the season by a staggering margin, and that's not to besmirch his reputation, but this is fantastic to see from Wesley Lewin right now, all fired up and definitely showing his credentials here today. Well, will Farbo try and take a shot at that P2? Well, as they make the way on through the carousel, we finally get an opportunity to take a brief breather and take a look back at what happened at the start of the race when we did go to green flag conditions, and let's take a look back. In particular, we're going to look towards the back of the field and what happened in the bronze class when all of our drivers got themselves up to speed, because multiple drivers were involved in a degree of an incident. And we start by looking at Jan Crank, who was towards the front of the field, and what happened to him in the opening couple. Of course, you can see all the field started to concertina into turn number 1. Nothing really major for Crank there at first, and as everyone comes on the brakes, oh goodness me, somebody getting it very wrong there under braking. I'm not quite sure who that is, but somebody getting it absolutely tantamount to disaster coming into the braking zone. And well, as we take another look back to the race start, we're going to try and understand what exactly happened there. This was John Meredith a bit further back, the Meredith racing driver, charging across the line, coming away from what is a 36th place starting position, and he makes his way past the camera. You can see the shaking with the frosty of the cars. Now, Meredith came to the scene of the incident, so everything had already kicked off, but we're not quite sure which car it was that really triggered off the incident. In fact, we did briefly lose the camera there of Meredith, but Meredith going around on his own accord. We apologise for that bit of a glitch for our camera, but we do need to take another look back at that race start one more time. And in fact, we look to now Craig Tillotson, who was in amongst, in fact, near Meredith, and the FR20 Sim Racing driver making his way down towards the braking zone, and was they made the way on him in the field here. And in fact, that's one of the Aztec racing cars that ended up getting knocked about. We see Rogenbach getting it wrong, and Tillotson takes it very patiently, and meanwhile Meredith just getting it wrong on the curve of his own volition by looks of things, as the FR20 Sim Racing driver Tillotson just taking it safe. We return it to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to stall for too much longer on the race start. We have also had some other instances we'll take a look back at in due course, including what happened to Jamie Dory in the early stages of this race, and also to Stephan Albanese Senior. And in fact, we do take a look back at what happened to Stephan Albanese Senior on the opening lap. This is what happened to the DRS eSport driver. In fact, he was involved in the major collision at the start of the race and with a damaged car. I think that was a very quick tow to the pits afterwards there. So it's in the aftermath of Albanese Senior as Rogenbach and Senior came together, and a difficult one for the pair of them. And well, as we also take a look at what happened to Mark Sykes, and in fact, we've just seen the aftermath there of a heavily wounded car for Mark Sykes. In fact, I think he was the one who was elbowed off track at turn number 6. We get an earlier replay of this. In fact, we do not get an earlier replay of it. We just get the same footage there once again, but those are the replays that we'll look at from lap number 1. And we're not quite sure what happened to Jamie Dory. We are trying to see if we can get the replay tape available, but meanwhile, we come back to live pictures just in time as Stephan Wessels there under pressure from Akram Zanoon. And right now, the Mercedes AMG Evo driver, well, I don't know what he's had for breakfast this morning, but I can tell you one thing, Zanoon's going all in here on the inside into turn number 3, and he gets P2 for Stephan Wessels. Zanoon is absolutely fired up. Meanwhile, Chris Shorter is only 2.6 seconds up the road. Could this be Akram Zanoon's opportunity in order to try and go for the win here today and take his first win of the season? We'll have to wait and see as we say hello to Bernardo Colbe. It says push John Meredith, and good evening to you, Bernardo. I hope you're doing well. And we also see Alex Meredith clarifying there that John got tapped and turned around at turn 1. Thank you for clarifying, Alex. We do appreciate that. Sometimes we can't get everything on the replay, but what we can, we'll try and do and make it suffice. But meanwhile here, what's doing it versus Wessels. I think now Wessels will be all fired up here in chasing down. And as they make their way up towards turn at number 8 as they come onto the brakes. Through the left hand they go, leading on to the pit lane as I quickly look at my content move. We know, I think, for repair work on the car. He's in the silver class, but meanwhile we stay here with this gold battle for P2 in class. And as they make the way free, you can see the different body language of the cars there, where Wessels in the dirty air of the Mercedes has to take a much tighter, conservative double apex to the carousel. Meanwhile, Zanoon can be much more liberal in how much road he uses, as he doesn't have to try and offset the dirty air. But either way, Wessels staying right and firmly in the slipstream here. 2.2 tenths is the gap as they make the way down towards Canada corner. Onto the brakes they go, and well, Wessels here, he's got the toe, but meanwhile Zanoon's made a mistake. Let's go around the outside. Bit of elbows between the two of them there as they make the way up, and Stephan Wessels takes P2 with CSA Pink. He returns into the position he was in only moments ago. Zanoon with a rare mistake there, and with that is going to cost him dear, as now Matt Shorter back in the fight, and it's a CSA sandwich with a fill-in of Gavan Motorsport. As they head up towards the timeline, meanwhile we look from them to a little bit further down the order, and in particular we look down to what is Tristan Engelstad, as we see the P3 Silver driver right now chasing after Sergio Gonzalez Martin. As they head up towards the timeline, well, for Engelstad, he's been chasing Gonzalez all this race so far. Although I think the Quad Dash Racing driver not close enough to really try and make a mark at the moment. Instead, having to wait for an opportunity, and that's the thing. When Gonzalez is consistent as he is, and Engelstad's able to match him for pace is consistent as well, it comes down to a war of attrition between the two of them, and with 7 minutes to go, well, it's a short race, and we push it as hard as they can, but will one of them make a mistake, or it's all over? We wouldn't want to put the commentator's curse on either of them, but again, we have seen late mistakes in the racing from other drivers in the past, and what could they add their names to the list? As they make the way down towards turn at number 5, a bit further back, fellow teammate from Quad Dash Racing, Johnny Tahar, currently P9 in the gold class. He's trying to chase after Gaz Williams. The car behind him is a gold class car in the form of Peter Shimaro, but the difference being that for Shimaro, he is a lap down in P11 in the gold class, therefore he's not bad in position right now. Instead, he's having to just watch and wait, potentially unlap himself when the opportunity arises. But looking from there, we then go to Nesta de la Fuente, as we can see here, the Gavan Motorsport yellow driver all over the back of that teammate from the sister team of Gavan Motorsport red of what is David Camano, as the two of them here make the way into turn number 8, and I think De La Fuente is currently looking for a potential move. In fact, he's getting closer and closer as they come down through the right-hander of that turn number 9, and whilst all this is going on, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a bit of a moment. I do believe Wesley Lewin, as in fact Wesley Lewin has gone round. I'm not quite sure what's happened to the CSA Pink driver. He's had an off track, but with that off track, he has fallen out of what is the top 3 of the bronze class, and the wounded Ferrari, can he get the car home? That's the question, because he's currently 25 seconds clear of Daniel Fritz in P5, and with that he may be able to find himself an opportunity to be best the rest outside the podium, but not the way he's wanted this race to go. But as we look from him back to what is up inside the top 5 overall, where here's P2, Stephan Wessels, and Chris Shorter a little bit further away at the moment, and Akram Zanoon a bit further back as we look at the back of this group. Well, it is Rosev who's looking for an overall position on Russell Fowler as we come towards what's the final 5 minutes about to start. Rosev can't find it this time. The battle of the BMW versus the Mercedes, 2 straight line speed beasts in their own right, but Rosev tucking it in behind once again. And it does look as though here that Rosev right now potentially meeting his match as he follows Fowler down towards turn number 5. As they charge away on through the silver class driver of Fowler doing a phenomenal job here. It must be said, in his first race of the day, I think the Road America circuit really suits his driving style. But on the inside goes Rosev on the brakes. He commits to the move into turn 5, goes a bit deep, but he manages to get stopped just in time. Fowler doesn't find the cutback. All he finds there is the natural race line, and the two of them do swap places. So it means that Rosev now moves up to the P6 overall. Meanwhile, Russell Fowler drops to P7 overall. We won't be too worried about that, given the fact he still will be the leader of the silver class, with Gavan Gardener trying to get closer from behind. But we do have a sizable gap to Sergio Gonzalez, who makes his way out to turn number 7 there, and he's got Tristan Engelstad only 1.5 seconds back and trying to close the delta before this race is over. As he makes his way into turn at number 9, we are starting to see a bit of a calming down with regards to the battles at the moment, albeit anything can happen before this race is over, there's no doubt about that. And well, speaking of which, Nesta de la Fuente is still looking for the move versus Camano as they make the way through the carousel, and this will be the annoying part for de la Fuente in the fact that I think he has got a bit more pace at his fingertips, but it looks as though Camano just able to maintain that gap, most importantly able to keep that dirty air over the front of the number 32 of BMW, and that really spoils the front end downforce of the car, and particularly the front end turning, which it needs in order to be able to get through the corners. We do know the BMW is a little bit of a car that's prone to understeer. It's a very stable platform, but it's also one that goes quite nose heavy into the corners, being front engine rear wheel drive, with the engine being ahead of the driver. It's in the front of the car, so therefore the centre of mass is towards the front, and naturally the car will be more prone to lean onto that weight going into the corner, and therefore understeering as they make the way onto another lap. 3 minutes long, we've got the come to lap number 9. We're expecting there will be 10 laps here today in our first race, and as we see it, Fuente still in the chase. Meanwhile, we look from him to a bit further up the road in the form of your race leader of Gold Class. It's Chris Shorter for CSA Blue in a very peaceful lead at the moment. It's 4.1 seconds gap, and well, you can see how that gap is being articulated, because as we look at Stephan Wessels, he's now starting to break away from Ankram. I think managed to push the car a little bit too hard in the mid portion of the race to really be able to come back against Wessels now. But still, Ankram doing a fantastic job all the same as he makes his way through turn number there, what is it, number 6 into 7, and as they head down towards turn number 8, Jonathan Cook still on the back of this group, and right now I think the Performance Thing Esports driver trying to look for a move here versus Matt Shorter, flashing his lights, trying to get in the head of his rival as we ride on board with the 144 BMW M4, and now I think Cook really trying to start a recipe for success, and as he makes his way through turn number 10, takes a bit of grass there as he turns in prematurely for the apex. It just over rotates the front very slightly. New fastest lap in the bronze class off camera from Daniel Fritz, a 2:05 point what was 5.7, so an absolutely scintillating lap from the Australian, albeit that will keep him safe in P5 in the class now. But as we look here to Cook falling back behind Shorter, we'll have one more lap in this first sprint race of the day, and can Cook find a way to close up? He really needs to be half the delta away come the exit out the final corner if he wants to move into turn 1. 5/10 is not going to cut it here, even though he does have the speed. Shorter does have the toe of Zanoon in front, plus also the better initial acceleration out the corner in second and third in the Porsche. But as they now make the way on the straight, you can see here Cook will start to close little by little as they make their way onto the final lap. They'll make it to the 10th and final lap as they head onwards towards turn 1. But Cook nowhere near close enough to try and look for the move here as they head onto the brakes in turn number 1. Come through the right-hander. Meanwhile, further down the order, we've had a bit of drama for what is Wesley Lewin, who has dropped down to P4 in the bronze class. We saw that early on. He's dropped a couple of places overall to Matthew Sheraton and leaving for a further off-track. And in a wounded car right now, Lewin is trying to get the car home. He's only 8 seconds clear of Daniel Fritz. Meanwhile, Jorge Santos here trying to run after what is Jamie Dory, but he can't seem to try and find a way to stay close enough in the toe. John Meredith a little bit further behind. He's currently P8 in the bronze class. Meredith Racing drive battling here with Alfonso Marin, the silver driver, in a bit of a nip and tart as Meredith there goes a bit late on the brakes into the corner and goes wide, albeit he'll bring the car back onto the tarmac very shortly. The next cars behind him are the race leaders, coming up to potentially put a lap on him, but I think he will be safe as long as he keeps it on the track to not be lapped come the end of the race. Not as anything bad about that, but he'll have it on his mind, of course, that he won't want to have to worry about the blue flags unless he absolutely has to. But looking from him to Nigel Stock at the moment. Well, Nigel Stock, your bronze leader here, and he's got a comfortable gap on Davide Favo of 7 seconds. And the Crest Autosport driver, he did talk about the fact that he was looking to be back to winning ways, or at least on the podium, and it's coming his way as we have had a retirement for Sean Scooter, who was leading comfortably, and I believe the Scooter, the retirement has come quite early on in this race. We're trying to understand what exactly happened to Sean Scooter. We haven't got anything on our data. It may in fact be a disconnect, a technical disconnect, which is very unfortunate, and therefore a technical retirement on the car. But meanwhile, the misfortunes of one CSA driver to the fortunes of another, and as he makes his way out to the final corner, we've been waiting for some time to see Chris Shorter return to the grid. We're happy to say he's back and fighting fit in full health, and with it he takes the checker flag here in our first race of the day at Road America. It's a win by 4 seconds in the end in the gold class and overall for the CSA Blue driver, followed up by his teammate, fellow South African CSA Pink, Stephan Wessels P2, and Kremsonu makes it P3, his first podium of the season for Gavan Motorsport Red since Fuji, and it is Jonathan Cook behind P4 and Matt Shorten and Eric Rosev. Russell Fowler goes home to P7 overall, but more importantly, P1 in the silver class by a margin of 8.5 seconds over Sergio Gonzalez Martin, who finishes P2. And then it's Tristan Engelstad, P11 overall, but a P3 in class for him in the silver class. And then shortly, Nigel Stock will come on through. He returns to the top step after a long hiatus. The Crest Autosport driver takes the checker flag in the bronze class, P17 overall, and Crest Autosports driver having a brilliant day so far. In P2 in the class, it will be Davide Favo who takes his best result of the season, and indeed his fixed GT3 League career at NXTGEN Racing, and Craig Tillerston will complete the bronze podium with a top 20 overall. And the FR20 Sim Racing driver in the Ferrari there, I think he'll be pleased with that one, given the fact it was a very tumultuous start to the race, and indeed many a driver falling by the wayside, but not Tillotson at Farvo or Stock. And as we wait for the further drivers to come on through, well, it's not going to be a podium in the end, but Wesley Lewin will score his best result of the season so far for CSA Pink, overall in the P23 and P4 in the bronze class. And he finished there, James Mansell with Daniel Fritz coming on through to take P5, afterwards looking to be a potential podium, but an early incident cost him very dear as he sets fastest lap of the bronze class right here in a 205.557. So he's going to be one to watch out for in the second race of today. But as we still do have a couple of drivers across the finish line, here comes Jorge Santos, tucked in behind Jamie Dory. Dory's P27, Santos P28 overall. They'll take their respective flags. And then we do have what will be our last finisher, John Meredith, as he does just try to get the car on around there out of the final corner. And with the Meredith Racing driver, I think the suspension's still able to point somewhat in the right direction. And in fact, he will limp the car into the pit lane. But given he is the final finish on the lead lap, he will retain the status of P30 overall and P8 in class come the checkered flag. But what a race it has been for our first race at Road America. And well, Chris Shorter, after some early pressure from Stephan Wessels, running off into the distance, albeit you could argue he was aided to a degree by the battle between Sanoon and Wessels. A fantastic battle for P2, and Chris Shorter was allowed to step away little by little, lap after lap. But still, you can't put it against him, the fact that number 16 driver absolutely holding firm and phenomenal pace, it must be said, as he heads into the pit lane. For Russell Fowler as well, spending a good amount of time inside the overall top 5, falling out of it in the end, but still a P7 overall, a season best performance in the overall category. And for Fowler, it didn't look as though anybody would be able to touch him in the sprint race from the silver class, but we'll have to see if he's able to replicate it by coming through in the next race of the day. And then Nigel Stott, the Crescent Motorsport driver, demonstrating his credentials immediately with fine flying form, and won in the end by taking the win by just shy of 8 seconds. I think the Englishman will definitely know right now his championship campaign and his momentum is right back on track. But as I try to make the way into the pit lane, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And we start off by looking at the overall standings, albeit focusing on the top 10 and then the podium places for classes outside the top 10 plus retirees. And as we can see, Chris Shorter there taking the overall win for CSA Blue by 4 seconds in the end over CSA Pink Stephan Wessels. Akram Zanoon completing the overall podium at P3 there, and with that the gold class podium for KFM Motorsport Red, battling hard with Wessels but then having to focus on Jonathan Cook, who finished behind him by 4 attempts in P4 for Performance Link Esports. And top 5 was completed by Matt Shorter, the CSA green driver, not quite able to cut his way past Sanoon or Cook in order to make it a CSA at 1, 2, 3, but still he'll know there's plenty of points still to go around in the upcoming feature race. With then Eric Rosedev on his debut, P6 for RaceNav Esports AM, and well, it was a dead heat between him and Matt Shorter at the line, but it was going to be Shorter who took the win in the drag race to P5. Russell Fowler, P7 there overall, and with it your silver winner for Performance Link Esports by what was 3 seconds ahead of Gavan Gardener, the NXTGEN Racing Team Pink driver, making the Ferrari work as hard as possible, but not quite able to get the Ferrari into the top 5. And then Sergio Gonzalez finishing P9 there, runner up in the silver class for KFM Motorsport Yellow, ahead of Gaz Williams to complete the top 10 for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple. P11, Tristan Engelstad for Quad Dash Racing in a run to a 3rd place on the silver podium, and that podium being made up of Fowler, Gonzalez and Engelstad, with Gianni Tahar, his teammate, just finishing behind for Quad Dash Racing in P12. And now that we're outside the top 10, we remain by focusing on where's the podium finishers we haven't talked about in the classes yet, and we started with a bronze winner, Nigel Stott, P17 there for Crest Autosport, a deserved result, albeit aided to a degree by the retirement of Sean Scooter, but still you've got to be there to pick up the pieces when it goes wrong for everybody else. And for Nigel Stott, he was in the right place at the right time and put together some phenomenal laps right at the end of the race to show his bronze class pace. We then had Davide Favo, P19, runner-up in the bronze class, picking up his best performance of his GT3 League career at NXTGEN Racing for CSA Blue, and holding off Craig Tillotson in the end, the FR20 Sim Racing driver, finishing P20 overall, and with 3rd place on the bronze podium that consists of Stock, Favo and Tillotson. Now coming on to our lead lap finishers in terms of the final drives on the lead lap, those have finished a lap down, and also with regards to our retirees, we can see a grand total of 30 cars finished on the lead lap, the last one being John Meredith for Meredith Racing, P8 in the bronze class, and then finishing a lap down, the 3 drives of Victor Chamorro, Luke Eaglin, and also Elwin Sykes, P33 for CSA Green behind the privateer. Then finishing at 5 laps down, Sean Scooter, and I do believe with his retirement being at the halfway point of the race, He will be classified as a finisher as he did complete half the race distance. And unfortunately for the CSA Blue drives to have the technical fault with the car. And then we can see it completing the standings there. Mark Sykes, Jan Crank and Stephan Albanese Sr., who with their respective retirements of 8, 9 and 9 laps before the end of the race will not be scoring any points as they did not complete over half the race distance. They will be classified as non-finishers. We now come on to the individual classes. And here we can see in the gold class, firstly, Chris Shorter taking the class win by 4 seconds over Stephan Wessels, where Kremzoon a further 1.5 seconds behind. Jonathan Cook missing out on a podium here at Road America in the first race, but expect plenty more from him in the second race of the day. And the same for Matt Shorter, with Eric Rosev just missing out by 10 thousandths at the finish line in P6 for Race Lab Esports Am, as we say hello to one of his colleagues, Thomas Asphaug, in the YouTube chat. And then Gavan Gardener, Gaz Williams, Gianni Tahar and Jamie Dory completing your top 10 there. Victor Shimura finishing a lap down P11 best the rest, and then the sole retiree, Jan Crank, finishing at P12 there, but classified as a non-finisher for Team Racing Netherlands. We then come to the silver class. And here we can see in our second class, Russell Fowler taking the win by 8.5 seconds exactly for Performance Link Esports, with Sergio Gonzalez losing some ground in the championship now in terms of his lead to Fowler, but still he'll know that he's got the pace to be on the podium, and that's just as important. But behind the KFM Motorsport yellow driver, Quad Dash Racing Tristan Engelstad, who was a further 4 seconds behind, and then Derek Kamano a second off of the podium, but still the KFM Motorsport red driver doing very well to hold off KFM Motorsport yellow's Nestor de Fuente, and it goes to show that both drivers are very even on pace, and indeed the two sister teams in a bit of a rivalry. Ben Bennyworth P at 6 there for Crest Autosport ahead of Jack Barker, who made his way into P7 for Made for Racing. Not having too eventful a race, but mixing up with the Aztec Racing 4 GTs of Jake Pitt and Matthew Sheraton, who finished P8 and P9 respectively. And then Lee Horn at P10 there, a difficult start to his proceedings today. I think he felt as though top 5 was definitely on the cards. Behind the Next Gen Racing drive, Best SP11, James Masquez-Gal, with then Alfonso Marion P12, and then a lap down at Luke Eaglam with Stephan Albanese Senior being the sole retiree for DRS Esports and being classified as a non-finisher. And then as we come onto the bronze class, last but not least, here we can see Nigel Stock taking the win by 8 seconds for Crest Autosport over CSA Blues at Davide Favo, with Craig Tiston round off the bronze podium for FR20 Sim Racing a further 5.5 seconds behind. It was then 22 seconds to Wesley Lewin, who'll be gutted he didn't bring home his first podium of the season, but the CSA Pink driver's got plenty more racing to come. You never know what can happen in the feature. And Daniel Fritz there for the Whiskey Runners Racing driver, caught up in that open lap incident at turn number 1. He'll know that P5 is not necessarily representative of what he did bring to the table in qualifying, so therefore he'll be going for broke in the next race. Alex Rogenbach P6 and a great performance for the German driver ahead of Jorge Santos, with John Meredith the last lead lap finisher. And then we can see Elwin Sykes finishing a lap down P9 for CSA Green, ahead of Sean Scooter, who will be classified as a finisher as he completed half the race distance for CSA Blue. And then Mark Sykes, the sole retiree, classified as a non-finisher, P11 there for Next Gen Racing at Team Red. But that was our first race of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to very shortly take a brief breather for what is approximately 10 to 15 minutes, but don't be alarmed, we'll be back very soon for the build-up to race number 2, the 60-minute feature at Road America, and who will come out on top when they charge into the local countryside once again. We'll be back soon, and indeed, if it's the time to go grab some refreshments, do so now, because you won't want to miss what's coming up. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the build-up to our second race of the day. It's only 5 minutes away, and it's the 60-minute feature race here at Road America in round 4 of season 4 of the NXTGEN Racing GT3 League, brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC, known as iRacing. And well, what a race one we had. In the fact, it had a little bit of everything. It had a driver who gradually made his way off into the distance after some early pressure at the front of the field, and that was our gold class winner of Chris Shorter, we see here for CSA Blue, and I think he'll be feeling the zone now. The pressure is on to carve his way through the field to try and make it 2 out at all, but given the pace that we have seen from the gold class all the way through the sprint race, it could be a very tall order for the number 17 driver. We also saw a driver absolutely dominate in the respective class, and that was in the silver class, with Russell Fowler absolutely charging off into the distance in terms of the battles with his silver class peers, instead of focusing on mixing up with the gold class at the very front inside the top 10. And unfortunately, esports driver will know if he can put another result like that in his pocket, then he will have closed the gap to Sergio Gonzalez Martin in the championship. And as he makes his way up through turn 9 and 10, well, right now Russell Fowler definitely, I think, feels as though everything is coming together comfortably. But then as he makes his way up through, we also did see in the bronze class a return to form from a driver who we've not seen on the top step in quite some time, and that's Nigel Stock as he makes his way into the pit lane of Crest Autosport. And as he does well for the number 30 driver, I had the opportunity to briefly catch up with him in between the races. I can definitely tell you he's absolutely pleased with the fact he's been able to take the win, albeit I think he definitely did not want to pick up some of the places through the open lap incident that did transpire, particularly towards the back end of the field, and a good number of the bronze class and some silver class drivers were involved in it, but still he will take the results he can get as the points do come his way. And well, he's not going to say no to Jorge Santos. We're having a bit of a difficult start to race number 1. Things going through for him towards the end of it, and well, as the bronze driver makes his way up towards Gavan Gardener in the Audi R8, now for him it's all about settling back down, and now he's going to be starting from towards the front of the field, and therefore he'll have an opportunity to go on the offensive. Now, just to remind you, with the feature race, it's a class reverse grid based on the results of the sprint race. So it does mean we take all the finishing positions of the classes, we flip them upside down, and therefore the winner of a given class will start at the back of their class with the golds, started ahead of the silvers, ahead of the bronze drivers. And therefore, for drivers who didn't necessarily have the best result in the first race of the day, for example, Lee Horn or John Meredith, who we see here, who finished P10 in fact it was P8 in the bronze class, now that I rectify my memory. The Meredith racing driver, we started right towards the front, and he'll be looking to try and just simply keep it clean and keep it calm for the opening couple of laps, and potentially break his way away. It could be an opportunity for top 5. It would be his first top 5 in class for the Britain if he is able to pull it off. As he comes through at turn number 6, or as he makes his way onwards towards the rest of this practice lap, we did see the 2 Ford GTs of Matthew Sheraton and Jake Pitt both have their own respective struggles in the first race. The Ford GT being quite the eye-water with regards to its looks and its performance, but both drivers there managed to mix it up with some of their fellow silver counterparts. We've got to see some good battling between Aztec Racing and Made for Races Jack Barker, who really did try and take the fight to the Ford GTs and successfully passed both of them over the race distance. But now, as we get set for this next race, well, you can imagine the drivers feel as though it's a reset, and they've all got to go and get ready to go once again here. And indeed, we have the extended break period of what is 15 to 20 minutes between the races. Your drives the opportunity to join the lobby firstly, also to give plenty of time to cool down. Indeed, they want to go into the second race absolutely hot-headed. You want to try and go in there with a level head and thinking forwards in terms of the potential results that could come your way. But now, as everybody gets set, we have to keep in mind that we've been a 60-minute race with a mandated pit stop for fuel, but not tyre changes. Could we expect to see some tyres being changed? Most certainly, yes. The left side tyres will probably get changed, both of them, or at least the rear left, due to where it will go through this circuit. Predominantly right-hand corners, and indeed that's the way of a clockwise circuit. It's more right-handers than left-handers, but also quite a few traction zones at low speed, and therefore the rear left tyre will definitely take a batter in terms of wear. And the left front tyre will feel quite a bit of load through the carousel, which you'll see Sheraton clear, and also into the kink here. But the tyre will be fully loaded up on turning, and that means that we'll see quite a bit of rubber come off the tyre, and it will start to lose its grip as time goes on. But now only 20 seconds, in fact 10 seconds away from the checkered flag on this practice session, and one driver had a difficult race number 1. Young Grant, the team racing Netherlands driver, the only gold driver not to make it to the end of the race. Indeed, the checkered flag. We'll be hoping the result will go a different way this time around. And we get set then, ladies and gentlemen, for race number 2. So as our drivers make their way to the grid for the second time tonight, let's take you through how they line up on the grid. It is Jamie Dorey who takes pole position in the gold class for NXTGEN Racing Team Peak, joined by Quad Race's Gianni Tahar, who starts P2. Behind them on the second row of the grid, it'll be the pair of Gaz Williams for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple and NXTGEN Racing Team Peak's Gavan Gardener, followed up by, on row number 3, Eric Rosev for Racing Lab Esports AM and Matt Shorter for CSA Green. On row number 4, we'll see Jonathan Cook for Performance League Esports line up with KFM Motorsport Reds Akram Zanoon, with the two of them there then having to fend off Stephan Wessels for CSA Pink and CSA Blues Chris Shorter. That's your top 10 inverted, and then the drivers behind them will be starting behind due to the fact they did not reach the end of the race. It'll be Victor Shimura for KFM Motorsport Yellow, who'll be starting on the 6th row grid in P11, and Jan Kraker starts P12 for Team Racing Netherlands. We'll then come on to what is the silver class on row at number 7. It'll be Luke Eagleton who starts on pole position of the privateer, and he'll have KFM Motorsport Reds Alfonso Marin who joins him on that row. Lee Horn for NXTGEN Racing starts off row at number 8, and he is joined by Made for Races Jack Barker, who starts P4 in the silver class, P16 overall, with Ben Beddyworth for Crest Autosport kicking off on 9th row of the grid, joined by KFM Motorsport Yellow's Nesta de Fuente. We're then going to have completing the top 20 on row number 10, Derek Camano for KFM Motorsport Red and Quad Races Tristan Engelstad. On row at number 12, we'll have row number 11, we should say. We've gone ahead of a row. It is Sergio Gonzalez who starts P21 for KFM Motorsport Yellow, and he'll be joined by Russell Fowler, Performance Link Esports. And then our final silver driver who starts off row number 12, it'll be a lonely row on the grid once the classes separate out. And Stephan Albanese, senior for DRS Esports, who starts P23. And then, kicking off our bronze drivers on the other half of row number 12, it'll be your pole sitter Elwin Sykes for CSA Green, and he'll be followed up by the pair on row at number 13 of John Meredith for Meredith Racing and the privateer Jorge Santos. On row at number 14, we do have Alex Rogenbach, the privateer, joined by Daniel Fritz for Whiskey Runners Racing, and it will be James Smagsgal for Aztec Racing, who is joined by Wesley Lewin for CSA Pink on row number 15. I believe these silver drivers may have already been reclassified as bronze drivers, so therefore we will have to update our information very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. And on row at number 16, it'll be Matthew Shevington for Aztec Racing, who is joined by Craig Tilleston for FR20 Sim Racing. And on row at 17, it'll be Davide Farman for CSA Blue, joined by Jake Pitt for Aztec Racing. And on the final full row of the grid, it will be Nigel Stock and Mark Sykes together for Crest Autosport and NXTGEN Racing Team Red. And then starting P37, last but not least, on row number 19, it's CSA Blue's Sean Scooter, who had to do it all from the very back of the field and carve his way through to victory. But will he be able to do the job that's asked of him? That's the big question. But meanwhile, as we look to Gianni Tahar making his way on around here as he gets ready to go racing, absolutely eager now to try and make it another strong result for Quad Racing. Albeit for Tahar, it wasn't a happy day in race number 1, but it was a better day by comparison to Tristan Engelstad. But now, as he gets ready to go, he'll know he has clear track in front of him, and if he can hold on to the position come the end of the run, all the way up towards turn number 1 and on the exit, then he may just be feeling as though he's got a lot of breathing room going into the remainder of the lap, and could he potentially even turn it around for a top 5 finish, if not greater? That's going to be the thing that will be on his mind. But as he does, I think we've just updated our driver data for Aztec Racing, as they have been reassigned to the bronze class. We're to understand it, so don't worry, the overlay refreshing is not a problem on your screen or your internet connection. It's on our end here in the commentary booth, and as we do see Gianni Tahar right now leading the field onto the back portion of the lap, we look down to Luke Eaglin, as here we do see the Porsche 1 and 2 driver who's going to be taking the silver class away from pole, albeit staying very close right now to the gold class. But I would be surprised if he potentially starts to back the class off the gold class once they get through turns 12 and 13 to give some separation. They are expected to give at least 2 seconds of separation between the classes in order to encourage a bit of a safer run into turn number 1, because otherwise the concertina effect can be quite dramatic. And as our drivers inch their way in towards Canada corner, meanwhile we do look to Jack Bark here starting P4. In fact, we're right on board with the Mercedes AMG driver, and we fought hard with the Aztec Racing drivers, albeit they've now been moved to the bronze class, so he won't see them again in his class necessarily, but he'll know that he can potentially pick off some of the places in front of him. That'll be his target. But can the number 6 driver in the Mercedes AMG Evo get a good start? That's what he needs in order to launch his way up the field. We'll see very shortly as everybody now starts to make their way up towards turn 14. And as they do, we look to the combination of Jamie Dory and Gianni Tahar as they get ready to take us to green flag racing, and the safety car will very shortly peel off, and then it will be in fact Jamie Dory who dictates the pace as we go racing once again here at Road America for 60 minutes of feature race action. And it's lights out and away we go for our second race today as Jamie Dory goes relatively early, and as they make the way towards turn 1, Tahar was expecting it, because look at that Mercedes car on the right of your picture. He's not sliding down here, and I think Tahar's going to try and go around the outside. Onto the brakes they go, but as they do, everybody now Constantina into the braking zone. It looks like most of our drivers safely making it through here for the first time of asking today in the feature race. No major incidents talk about, but I think we have had an incident in fact on the run up towards the start finish line between cars, but as everybody makes their way down out to turn number 3, things do start to really boil over here in the charge up towards what is turn number 5. We can see here in particular it's going to be Jamie Dory breaking away, but Gaz Williams versus Eric Rosev trying to go around the outside as all the gold class stacks up as they go to the brakes. Gavan Gardener between Wiz Cook there, Matt Shorter, but as they head through the braking zone it's going to be Gianni Tahar who fends off Akram Sanu, at least the first one. Sanu carries all the speed around the outside, up the hill into turn 6 they go, and as they do now Chris Shorter trying to get the inside here versus Jonathan Cook, elbows out racing between the two of them. They give one over just enough space to survive, and as they come down through turn number 7 we've also got that Stephan Wessels making his way in to the headway as they come down to braking zone. Gardner defends, but look at Chris Shorter all the way on the brakes. That's very bold for Chris Shorter on cold brakes, and Gardner goes a bit wide there, but Gardner being intimidated by the CSA blue driver, and meanwhile Stephan Wessels trying to inch around the outside here for P9 versus Cook. He can't quite find it as Victor Schmo just watches on, and Yank Craig a little bit further back as they make the way up towards the king. Meanwhile Alfonso Marin holds into the silver lead, getting ahead of Luke Eagle and into the opening couple of corners, and as they make the way up towards Canada corner now, well, Marin under pressure from Eagle, but he's also got Jan Crack to worry about as they charge their way up towards turn number 12, given the fact that the gold driver in front's not breaking away, and therefore it's cost him some time. Lee Horn on the inside, and Bebo versus Barker into the right hand, and Barker gives him space, sees him coming, but the Mercedes now coming back as they shoot their way up towards turn 13, into the left hand of 13 lane they go, side by side still, Horn around the outside, that's a bit bold there from Horn, but he's made it count, and therefore it's a smooth move. But meanwhile Barker now under pressure from Ben Bennyworth, who opens the door up there even further going through the final corner, and Barker now starting to fall to a degree, but so he's got the Mercedes AMG power plant to go with him as they made the way up to lap number 2. It's back and forth between them side by side as they made the way up towards turn 1. I think Barker here maybe fighting a bit of a losing battle on the outside. All he's got his nose in, he's quarter of the car ahead now as they enter the braking zone. Bennyworth may not commit to this, but as they come in, well, here we go, Barker holds it around the outside for now, running wide there, that is Devon Camano in the Lamborghini Huracan, who's taking a bit of a distant run through the corner, but as they head down towards the next corner, it is going to be Barker who holds on. Car around further back in the picture, I believe that is Alex Rogenbach who's involved. It's all gone very, very wrong in the mid portion of the bronze class there, multiple cars all around. Sean Scooter once again having a difficult moment as well. It was a technical issue with the car in the sprint race, and the feature race has come right into the scene of a major incident, and the whole field right now trying to pick themselves back up as Mark Sykes in a side-by-side battle with Nigel Stott, both drivers here in wounded cars and trying to fight on all the same, and Nigel Stott getting ahead of Sykes. They made the way down towards turn off. I've got more cars around there. That I believe is now John Meredith was had to be towed to the pits. I think we also had there what was destined to a Frente who's been involved in some sort of collision, so we've got a lot to dissect very shortly. But meanwhile, looking back to the battles further up the road in the silver class, Lee Horn still trying to keep Barker at bay, and Barker is coming back as they made the way through the carousel right on board the rear of Lee Horn's Porsche 992, and here you can see the NXTGEN Racing driver who's able to pull away initially, but that Mercedes right now, so it's all off the tarmac as it almost does there. I think Barker right now really being fired up after having one of his best races of the season in the sprint race, and as they make the way down towards Canada corner, you just see that Mercedes looking more menacing than ever, and it's keeping Bennyworth at bay. I think Ford feels very safe this time into the right-hander. I think next time around, if Barker there will carry some momentum, he may not feel safe anymore as they're heading in towards turns 13 and 14. Well, it's going to be a stalemate between them for now, and meanwhile we look back towards the front of the field, and here's Rosev looking for the move around the outside to inside versus what is there Williams as the Mercedes tries to outtrack the Porsche 992. And as the AMG Evo machine now gets its nose ahead, it's going to be attempts. He cuts back in front of Williams as Rosev. Meanwhile, Zanoon also up the inside there under brake, and the two Mercedes drivers trying to make it a 2-for-1 special. And indeed they do. That's the Kevin Motorsport red driver. Sydney Saunders on through. But I do wonder whether Williams here is playing the tactical game, and he already recognises he's never going to beat the Mercedes on straight line pace and one lap pace. What he can try to do in the Porsche, much like Matt Shorter behind it, is try and win on fuel saving, use the Mercedes to pull him up to the battles in front, and then sort of save some fuel, save the tyres as well, and give himself later race pace, and also just the ability to essentially leapfrog on strategy by spending less time in the pit box. Once they come down to braking zone, Shorter on the inside of Williams. Williams gives all the space in the world to Shorter. I think Williams has moved to the tactical mindset already, albeit Shorter now's got the hard effort to try and close back up to Zanoon and Rosev with a 9 tenths between the two of them. Matt Shorter right now making the move on Williams, and brother Chris Shorter I think won't be too far away from trying to look for the move himself as they come down in towards the next corner. Meanwhile, a bit of argy-bargy there between Alfonso Marin and Lee Horn by the looks of things as they come out 6 and into 7. Well, Marcus going to look around the outside. In fact, I think that was England who end up in the contact there, and there's contact between Marin and Barker, and it's going to be Marin into the side of Lee Horn through the corner. Well, Jack Barker carries on, and we'll have to take a look back at that. We're not sure whether it was the case that the two of them went into the corner and, well, Barker didn't give enough space, or whether Marin tried turning when Barker was right there. But either way, it has become a bit of a disastrous moment for Alfonso Marin, and with it Lee Horn as well, who really has fallen victim to the incident through turn 6 through to turn 8. But as we do see Barker making his way down towards turn number 12 now, with Sergio Gonzalez and Ben Bennyworth behind him. Bennyworth not too far away from trying to force a move here. It's against Autosport BMW M4 drivers. They make the way out to 12, but the problem is the fact if he makes one pass now, the next guy has got to try and pass as well as even faster on the straight, and Barker will not be hanging around, and given the fact that he is only 2 seconds off of England, and right now he is chomping time out of England's lead, left, right and centre. As they head up towards the timeline, you can see just how close Sergio Gonzalez is here, and the Ferrari driver pulls out the tyre. He feels that he's got the speed in the Ferrari. This may have been the right time to do it, or is it slightly premature? It's going to be very close to the drag race. That Ferrari just starting to get ahead little by little on that inside line. Barker hasn't really got any space to play with here, but he is going to try and force the issue around the outside. Barker being very bold as they make their way down towards turn at number 3, and as they come towards the races side by side through the corner, and Gonzalez makes it count on the inside, and Barker goes a little bit wide. Meanwhile, in the battle for the lead, it's Dory versus Rosev in the oval lead and gold lead battle, with Rosev then getting the better run and down the second straight and up towards turn number 5 on the inside of Dory, and takes the lead of this race for the first time today. And will Eric Rosev on his debut, I think now feeling as though it's his time to try and shine and run away from the field behind him. The thing is, if he can charge away, then he can leave Dory to really act as the rolling roadblock to try and keep the rest of the field in place. Although that's not to say that Dory's slow, but the idea is in much like what Chris Shorter did with Stephan Wessels and Akram Zanoon in the first race of the day, he can just let them fight each other, and he'll be hoping that Dory and Zanoon fight each other hard for P2, and then he can try and run off and put this race to bed before we get to the pit stops. As they head out towards turn at number 12 right now, it's anything but over. We have got a long way to go here at Road America, and well, you can see there Matt Shorter also starting to close the back of Zanoon, albeit I think focusing more here on what the Gavan Motorsport driver is going to do in battling with Dory, as in fact he does look for the middle of the inside of Zanoon into turn number 12. The inside he goes, Dory tries to cut it back, here Zanoon cuts it overly, and as they make the way into 13, it is going to be Dory who retakes P2 back, and this has really caused Eric Rosev to gain what is a whole second of the lead. As they make the way into turn 14, now we're starting to see Dory get the gloves out here, the metaphorical boxing gloves, to try and keep Akram doing it behind. But that Mercedes, just look at the speed it is carrying as they make their way down the start finish straight. Beautiful view from the blimp camera, and this gives you a perspective of the ability for the Mercedes to out-drag its rivals in the run down towards turn 1. It's an incredibly long start finish straight, not as long as Fuji, but it comes close, and Zanoon up the inside this time and makes the move count as they make their way down towards turn 3. Can Dory come back? I mean, he does so here. He's now started to pinch at straws, and indeed it will be that he's starting to cost himself and the guys behind time versus Rosev. So I think that he's going to stay out of the fight right now and focus on just keeping in the pace versus Akram Zanoon, and also keeping Matt Shorter and Chris Shorter behind. But meanwhile, we look back to the battle for P4 in the silver class here, and this is David Camano in Lamborghini Huracan Evo in front of the trio, who is trying to keep what is there Ben Benioff and Russell Fowler behind. they're also all trying to bring Jack Barker into this battle for the final spot on the silver podium. And as they head up towards turn number 5, I think Kamano here has to go more and more defensive as he defends the inside run into turn 5, albeit not necessarily needing to do so, given the fact that these guys riding at all very similar pace. So therefore, I think that may have been a little bit of an effort exhausted unnecessarily as they come through turn 6. With Russell Fowler right behind. Remember, Russell Fowler was your runaway winner in the first race of today in the silver class, picking up what was P7 in the end overall, and really demonstrated his power. But I wonder if Russell Fowler right now is noticing the fact he's not going to be able to pick his way past these guys easily, whether it might be worth doing some extended fuel saving in order to buy himself some time, in that he's got 6.5 second gaps to the class leader of England, and that is not too big of a gap. He can overhaul that strategy. Speaking of overhauls here, we've got side by side between Gianni Tahar and Jan Cran down towards Canada corner. Gavan Gardener tucking in behind Tahar here on the outside line on the right of your picture. On to as they go. Tahar goes around the outside and Gardener tries to do the same. Versus the Dutch with a crack as they make their way up towards turn 13. And as they do, Gardener backs out there 9 of 3 or 2, does not go into 1. And as they come out to turn 13A, meanwhile, your silver leader of Luke Eaglin right behind this group right now, and eager to try and make some further progress. He'll be grateful for the toe, but I wonder if he'll feel as though he's been held back a little bit here as they make their way onto another lap. Charging their way up towards turn number 1. Let's go around. We're 10 minutes into the 60-minute race. We've cleared a 6th of it. We've still got more to come. And meanwhile, Young Crack defending once again as he makes his way back past Gianni Tahar. In fact, the Porsche coming alive, but I wonder if Tahar might be doing some fuel saving here on the straight and trying to see how much he can get away with in fuel saving in the Mercedes AMG. Well, clearly, he can't get away with that much as Gardner looks up the inside of Tahar and takes P11 off him in the gold class. It's a nice move from Gavan Gardener, and now as they make the way out towards turn number 5, I think Tahar will be wondering where exactly that came from and how it's gone so wrong and so quickly. But as they head onwards towards turn number 5, we do have an opportunity to take a look back up the order to Chris Shorter, who right now has found his way past Jamie Dory off camera, and up the inside goes Matt Shorter. Very bold in the brakes there for Matt Shorter to lunge it into turn 6. It's not complete, however, as Dory has the inside into 7. Shorter now cuts back in the run down towards 8, but it's not enough of a cutback in order to successfully get alongside onto the outside of that corner, and therefore he has to stay behind as they make their way up towards turn number 9. Going for the double right apex here at the carousel, whereas Chris Shorter's been able to break on through. Matt Shorter's still trying to find a way to get through to the other side, and as they come down towards the King, where it is now going to be all the emphasis on Matt Shorter to try and catch up to the rest of the CSA drivers up the road, with Chris Shorter in particular, with Stephan Wessels also starting to narrow in on this battle. He's 2.5 seconds back, albeit between the two of them is Gaz Williams. Shorter gets closer and closer to the back of Dory, down the brake, and they go. Shorter on the inside here, and I think he may have got this done. He just about makes the corner exit, and Matt Shorter moves up to P4 then with a very fluid move. Indeed, I think Jamie Dory, they're seeing it coming, opening the door and expecting Matt Shorter to overcook the move, but in the end Shorter got it nailed. But meanwhile, further back there's a bit of a battle between one is Gonzalez, in fact that's between Kamano and what was it, Barker, and I think Barker perhaps feeling as though he was elbow wide there, albeit I think Kamano just used it all the width of the road as best he possibly can. Russell Fowler has come on through it with Kamano, albeit I think for Kamano right now that's not a good thing, the fact that Fowler is right there with him as they make their way across the timeline to go on to front of them. It's lap number 7 here in the feature race. They charge their way down towards turn number 1, and Fowler here gets closer and closer, inch by inch, 10th by 10th, as they get ready to go onto the brakes. He's not quite close up, it's 1.5 tenths in to the right-hander, and it's not going to work out this time for Fowler as he makes his way off the corner. But we ride on board with the Ponce Esports 33 as it comes into turn number 3, where he can get the best exit possible out of this corner with Guano. They're just about nailed his exit as well. It's going to be close here with 2 tenths between the two of them. Out the gearbox he goes, 1.5 tenths now. Fowler could have this as he builds up the speed. Being on further up the road, Williams is ahead of Dory in the battle for P5 in the gold class, but Fowler's been making around the outside here on our camera screens. But Peter in the silver class, Jack Barker's still right behind, and as Fowler there tries to cut back in, Kamano covers him off as they head up the rise into turn number 6. Now on the brakes, you can see Kamano braking much earlier by comparison to what Fowler was expecting. Fowler in the end actually having to really snatch the brakes over the rise in order to get the car to stop without tapping the rear of the Lamborghini Huracan. Difference in braking approaches there, and I wonder whether Kamano right now is trying to do some tyre saving, where he's got a bit deep there at turn number 8 and a bit of gravel to go with it, so they make their way into the carousel. Fowler now, if he can just nail the exit, he will be the closest he's been for some time. Coming on down through the right-hander, it's 1.5 tenths. This is going to be very close as they make their way out towards the King. There's no real move through here, and he's too close to the King now as they come on through. So Fowler intentionally stops losing momentum back in the toe, but I think the fact he's had to lift off the throttle slightly for the King getting so close so early on is in fact going to give Kamano a bit of safety. As Kamano just puts the car in the middle of the road and says, what are you going to do about it? And Fowler can't do anything right now. I'm going to get a really good run off the corner, bump to the rear of Kamano's car as they make the way out towards turn 13. And as they come on through the left-hander, it looks so Fowler here, all over the back of his rival, but being over the back of Kamano is one thing, finding a way on through it is an entirely different adventure as they head on towards another lap. Nose to tail they go, and this time, where Fowler's not close up, I don't know where he's going to be divided close up. As you can see that Kamano immediately defending to the pit wall, and it's going to be Fowler's going to be made to look around the outside. He tries pinning Kamano there, but Kamano starts to open the corner back up in terms of the braking zone that's upcoming, and he's going to look around the outside. It's Fowler. Kamano there, squeezed to the apex, fair racing between the two of them, side by side, coming down towards turn number 3. Brilliant battling here. Fowler still committing to the outside move. Kamano on the inside, side by side on the apex, on exit as well. Well, Kamano gets the better exit initially, but now Fowler can use the BMW straight line speed. Neither one of them's got a toe. Snag comes down to the machinery, and both of them getting equivalent exits. And Fowler here gaining little by little. No, slightly ahead. He's also got the most important thing. It's the inside line to turn 5. Kamano switches back to the inside, late on the brakes. It goes David Kamano, and as they do, well, it's going to be Kamano who comes back. Fowler goes a little bit wide, but great racing, giving the space to Fowler to come back on the road, and as they make their way to turn 6, David Kamano right now absolutely digging in here. You love to see it as the Kevin Motorsport red driver comes on through turn number 7 and down towards 8 they go, and Russell Fowler, I think Kamano knows if Fowler gets on through he's not going to be seated for much longer, given Fowler's pace, but Fowler being made to work for this with absolute grit and determination, and right now Kamano doing everything right to hold on. As they come down through the carousel, well, it's going to be another test here as they make their way in towards the King this time. Can Fowler learn from what happened last time as Kamano comes off race line briefly, albeit he's got the rotation in the Huracan to be able to afford to lose a little bit of turn in, and as they make the way in towards Canada corner, well now it's going to be about Fowler looking all the way around the outside under braking. As they come through the right hand, well, Fowler goes all the way around the outside. It's not quite enough as he dips the rear left tyre into the gravel, and it almost sends the car around, so Fowler catches it. But as Kamano proving to make that Lamborghini as wide as possible, all within the rules of racing. It's respectful racing between them, and Kamano holds on for now. But they're definitely taking a lot of life out of one another's cars. But as we can see there, Fowler into the pits. He's had enough. He's going for the undercut early here. 17 minutes into this race, he can get away with the undercut. It's a gamble, however, given the fact we've got a lot of bronze drivers who are separated out across the circuit, and therefore Fowler could find himself coming into some traffic sooner than he realises it. But meanwhile, as we look here to Jack Barker versus Tristan Engelstad, well, Engelstad on the inside of Barker there. I think it is going to be Barker who's had a bit of a poor run out to the final corner, as Engelstad was not disclosed previously, and in fact Tristan Engelstad moves up to P4 on track for Quad Dash Racing in the silver class. As they come out of turn 3 and towards 5, right now I think it might be Barker who is thinking more about strategy rather than making on-track gains as they head down towards turn number 5. But as the battling calms down for a brief minute, it gives us an opportunity, I should say, to take a look back at some of the early incidents and overtakes, including what happened at the start of this race, as we did have a major incident involving multiple bronze drivers, including Craig Tillotson and Jake Pitt, and here's what happened before we even went green flag racing. There, I do believe Jake Pitt coming into contact with the Audi at Davide Farvo and Craig Tillotson there, and that was the change in speed. We're not quite sure exactly what triggered it. We will take a look back with regards to the onboards from some of our drivers, particularly Jake Pitt. I think there it was Davide Farvo getting a really poor run when we went green flag racing, and Pitt in the end just coming into the back of Farvo and not being able to react to what had happened there. But a surprising start, to be sure, and not a welcome one for multiple drivers involved in that incident. As we return to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen, we do look to what is none other than your gold last place driver, albeit inside the top 12 here of the gold class, and that is Gianni Tahar, battling side by side with your silver leader of what is there, New England, as we can see the Porsche 992 driver in a bit of side-by-side brushing contact with his gold rival, and right now he's very eager to make some progress here, and you can understand why in the fact that he does have Sergio Gonzalez, who is only 3.5 tenths behind And as they make their way out towards turn 1 here, well, the problem will be in the fact that Porsche 992 driver has made a lot of headway. He's broken away, but now he's got one of the fastest drivers in the silver class right behind him. And that Ferrari 488 Evo eager to try and find a way on through in due time, of course, due time and course. But as they come through turn number 3, you can see they're even right now nailing his apex just as much as he needs to. Meanwhile, Gonzalez getting a little bit of oversteer on the exit of turn number 3, and as they make their way down towards turn number 5, we're England once again in the toe of Gianni Tahar, and I think you'll feel as though that's enough to keep him safe. But meanwhile, speaking of not being safe right now, Jamie Dory continues to pull down the order as Wessels goes around their contact with Jonathan Cook as the car goes sideways. He's able to stop him from going back onto the circuit. My goodness, a little bit of a love tap between the two, quickly escalated, and what exactly happened between them is the question. We'll take a look back at that. In fact, we look back at the start of the battle, and this was Stephan Wessels versus Jamie Dory. They've been fighting for P6 for some time in the gold class, and as they made their way on down towards turn number 5, you see Dory here on the outside, Wessels on the inside, so side by side out to the corner. Cook getting close to the back of this as Wessels defends inside. We ride them all with Jonathan Cook here to get the perspective from the third party in the scenario, and Wessels there loses the rear of the car lets go, and then lets go onto the path of Cook, and Cook being in the wrong place at the right time to send Stephan Wessels even further off the road. A very unfortunate one there, and well, I think Cook would argue, what could I do? I just happened to be in the wrong place. But as they make their way up towards turn number 12, meanwhile, we look back to your live pictures, and here is the race lead battle between Eric Rosen and Akram Zanoun in the gold class as they head down towards turn number 1. A third of this race complete. We've still got the best part of 39 minutes to go as they head on to what for them is now lap number 11. Only one significant pit stop held so far, and that's Russell Fowler, who decided to go for his pit stop in the silver class very early in order to try and leapfrog its way through the rest of the silver class drivers, particularly David Camano, who forced that out of him. We'll have to wait and see where it's worked out for Fowler, who has found himself in P6 in the silver class with some clear track to work with, so it could be an opportunity that has been seized very well. But meanwhile, as the gold lead battle continues here, meanwhile we do look to the bronze lead battle, and this is between Jorge Santos and Sean Scooter. Scooter on the left, your picture, Santos on the right, and there Scooter's going to take the lead. I think Santos deciding to let that one go, knowing that Scooter's pace may be a bit too much to hold at bay for an extended period of time. And Santos here, to be fair, if he takes home P2, it will be one of his best performances of the season. In fact, it will be his very best performance of the season in the bronze class, and he'll be absolutely pleased with those points, showing really that all we need to do is be smart, be consistent, and race your race. And as they head down towards turn number 5, Scooter right now will be hopeful that he can bring this car on home, and with it bring home what will be a win that will turn around the disconnect and indeed the non-finish from the first race of the day. As he heads up towards turn number 6 here, well, their battle subsides for Reed Bowen, and indeed we do look back to the battle for the silver lead between England and Gonzalez. And as they come down from the carousel and up towards the kick they go, we ride on board here with the Ferrari 488 Evo of Gonzalez. Now as he makes his way through the right hander, they're taking a little bit of excess apex go. You can see how the car dropped off the curb as it made its way on through. And Gonzalez there having a little bit of a heart in mouth mode in terms of what would the car do after that. Would it understeer a bit further wide? As England there goes a bit deep, loses the rear of the car, and Gonzalez goes around the outside and takes the silver class lead. England doing everything right apart from one mistake, which has cost him very dear. And Gonzalez now will try and make sure that this is not an opportunity that's wasted as he heads into turn 14. But through the right hand they go, and as they do, Gianni Tahar putting himself between the two silver battlers as they head up towards the start-finish line. Matt Short into the pit lane, Jonathan Cook and Stephan Wessels into the pit lane. We are seeing some more pit stops here, which is the Engelstad coming in. So we are in the region now where those pit stops are going to play into the race in terms of the strategy. And well, these early stoppers will be going for the proverbial undercut, as meanwhile into the pits comes Sean Scooter from the lead of the bronze class. So made the pass on Jorge Santos on the final lap before he came into the pit. I think that might be just to stamp his authority on this race, and now he'll feel as though, given the fact he was able to get into lead, he can come back out, put some more laps in, and leapfrog his way back into lead through the strategy. But whilst we've got a number of drivers in the pits, no sign of this man coming into the pit lane just yet. Eric Rose said the race lab Esports AM driver as he heads down to what is their turn, I do believe the left-hander, excuse me, of turn number 6 and 7. That's turn number 8 there as he comes out and in towards the carousel. but down through the right-hander he goes. In what's a very pleasant day here, it must be said, at Road America. A little bit about the weather. In fact, we didn't talk about it earlier on today. We can see it's overcast conditions with an ambient temperature of 18 degrees centigrade, the track temperature of 19 degrees centigrade, and will that mean that our drivers can really push the cars hard and fast, get the most out of the tyres, lap in, lap out, and well, they'll have to worry about tyre management, there's no doubt about it, but not as much as the conditions were scorching when we see a track temperature in excess of 40 degrees centigrade, and then our drivers will definitely have to tiptoe on the tyres, and even the smallest of slides can see a tyre compound completely ruined. We're coming back to the point here as Rosev tries now to get at home to Luna Bay. Boy, he is in the top two Mercedes, followed by a Porsche 992, and Rosev's into the pit lane, Zanoon's into the pit lane, and so is Chris Shorter. I think Zanoon was thinking about, well, I'm going to do whatever Rosev does. Rosev peeling on in, and Shorter then following suit as Gaz Williams in as well. And can anybody go another lap? Jamie Dory cannot, Victor Shimura cannot either, and Gavan Gardener comes in, so I think, in fact, Gavan Gardener does stay out. He goes for another lap. Could this be a bit of strategic magic that Gavan Gardener's trying to pull, much like at Suzuka? Oh, he's only got one pit stop to try and work this with, as he sets the personal best race at 204.558, but I think what he'll be hoping is that he can essentially come back out ahead once he's worked in clear lap traffic all the way for this lap, albeit he has got the P10 at bronze car in front of him, Alex Rogenbach. That's not going to upset it too much. We have got the lead drivers of the silver class coming in. We've got Eglin, Gonzalez, Kamano and Barker into the pit lane right now. Speaking of which, where's Russell Fowler in all of this, you may be asking, given the fact that he was the first silver driver to pit. He pitted the best part of what is 11 minutes ago, 9 minutes ago. Let's do the mathematics correct. And as he makes his way on around for Canada Corner, he's looking good. But meanwhile, in the battle to come out the pit lane as the effective leader in this race, Eric Rosen does re-emerge as your race leader again as he comes on through his turn at number one ahead of Chris Shorter. Well, Gavan Gardener has track position, and meanwhile in the chase for where's the silver lead, as we see there, Jonathan Cook getting it right at the final corner. 1 point lead, Eastwood Drive falls as another rises. Well, Fowler right now coming on through in order to go on to another lap, but it is not him who's leading the silver class. It's this man, Sergio Gonzalez, who has come back out ahead of Russell Fowler by the best part of what is 5.2 seconds. Gonzalez has made the later stop work, and I think he may have been doing some fuel saving when he was running behind his peers, particularly Eglin. In the fact that he's come out with such an advantage here, it's been quite a short stop for Gonzalez. What was the best part, 27.8 seconds versus Fowler's at 28.8. So therefore Gonzalez has gained time and will once again, he has pulled off magic with strategy, much like what we did see at Suzuka, with the fact he leapfrogged the field to an 18-second win with a pit stop that just seemed to be much shorter compared to everybody else, and he's doing it again here today as now he tries to hold on for the remaining 33 minutes of racing. As he heads up towards turn at number 7, we do look from him to a bit further back in the silver class. This is Russell Fowler, as we do see Luke Eglin getting it wrong and into the barrier, coming out of turn number 6 and knocked to the wall as he brings the car back onto the circuit. Well, right now, Eglin, who was having a phenomenal race, you can see the suspension there, it's crabbing, as we like to refer to it, whereby he's got to hold the steering wheel at an angle to get the car to drive straight, as the front suspension has been knocked out of alignment, particularly that front left wheel. And as he comes down into the carousel, it's going to be a very long trip to the pit in terms of making his way around, but it'll be better than a tow if he can help it. And meanwhile, into the pit lane comes Gavan Gardener from the lead of this race, who is going to be sat there for a while, albeit what is happening with Chris Shorter, I hear you ask. Well, here is P2 at driving gold class, Chris Shorter from CSA Blue, and as he makes his way across the timeline, he will very shortly retake what is the lead of this race overall. And in fact, he has jumped Eric Rosev. It has happened on circuit. Let's wait and see if we can get a replay of how the move was made. But we can see there, Gavan Gardener decided to go 1 lap extra. It's not really worked out so far. And if anything, as he now makes his way out of the pit lane, I think Gavan Gardener is going to be coming out in P8 overall and in the gold class. We'll have plenty of clear track in front of him, but it's not where you want to be. And here, meanwhile, is the replay for the move for the lead of this race, as was made by Chris Shorter and Eric Rosev only moments ago. And it was on their outlap. It was a drag race down towards turn 5. Rosev there on the outside, Shorter on the inside, hard on the anchors. And as they made their way through the left-hand up turn in number 5, Shorter there taking a classic move. Rosev behind him into turn number 6, but not close enough to be able to make the counter attack, and therefore I think having to relinquish the spot, as then they came down into the twisty section of turns 7, 8 and 9, and there's no real way through there. But meanwhile, as we return to your live pictures, we say hello in the Twitch chat to Sailboat 58, who says that Porsche RSR Not quite an RSR, sadly, in terms of the GT machine. It is Porsche 992. They do look rather similar, and as we do see the GT3s making their way on around, we hope you're doing well at Sailboat. Glad to have you tuning in with us this evening. But we also take a look at what's happening in the bronze class here. This is the battle for the bronze lead between Nigel Stock and Daniel Fritz. Stock has recently made the move for the lead. It should be pointed out, and now Fritz is trying to come back at him. And this is what happened only moments ago between the two of them, in the fact that Nigel Stock having the better run out of what was there, I do believe, turn at number one. Fritz going wide, and Stock sailing up the inside there to make the move count. A critical move there for Nigel Stock, trying to make it 2 wins out of 2 in Class A as he headed on down was the straight towards turn number 5. Fritz, to be fair, did come back at him, but here I think Stock holding the inside line. It feels like they could fully commit to defending. In fact, it's the battle for the lead, and the next one driver is Sean Scooter, the best part of 6 seconds away at the point of time of this battle, and that's how Nigel Stock took the bronze lead. As we return to our live pictures and up towards what is turn number 12, they go into the charge here. Well, right now, Daniel Fritz heads into the second half of this race with 30 minutes still left on the clock, knowing there's still plenty of opportunities, but he's got to be careful of this man who is closing in little by little. Sean Scooter, the driver who was the fastest in qualifying but denied the win in the first race of the day due to technical retirement, and right now looking to try and make it a win in the second race of the day to turn everything around. And in terms of lap times, he is currently matching Nigel Stock's times. Other than that, they are the fastest pair in the bronze class by far. And as Scooter makes his way towards the end of the lap. All right, now let's wait and see what his lap time will be for Stock. It's a 205.518. Fritz is a 206.954. Understandable given they're battling in the overtake. And then for Scooter, a 205.495. That's going to be some good time gained as he continues to make progress. As we come there to the battle for P6 in the silver class, it's Barker versus Woodis Horn as they come on through at turn number 3, and onwards towards 5 they go, and Barker having a bit of a slow run off the corner by comparison. He's going to have the toe of Daniel Fritz in front. The Mercedes driver here is going to get a moon to his top speed, but meanwhile Horn there well in the draft of the 2 cars. As they head down towards the braking zone here, Horn thinking about it. I think Barker trying to tease out a move on Fritz, trying to get Fritz to give him the space. Fritz turns in, Barker there compromises the corner exit. We'll have the inside uphill into turn number 6. This should keep him safe, as Horn now will try and come back in the cutback, but Barker just about gets the car stopped in time. And as they come into the right-hander of 7, no way through at the moment for Lee Horn as we ride on board here with a number 36 driver from NXTGEN Racing. Down in to left-hander he goes. He's got Stephan Wessels trying to poke his way through, with Wessels having an earlier instant which has cost him very dear. But Horner makes his way through turn number 9 and into 10. We're just having to wait and watch at the moment through the carousel. We're finding some of the rocket off place. He's got a gold driver who's eager to pass. He's eager to make a move on the silver driver in front of him. Looks the inside into the King. No real way through there. There's no way to go unless you're going to go too wide, and both of you are going to back out. But as they come through the King and up towards the turn in number 12 they go. In the nose to tail charge here. Getting ready to battle on the brakes, and Horn thinking about it again, just not close enough. The Barker goes a little bit deep there, catches the car in time, and Horn again just waiting for the wings to pounce. As they head on through turn number 13. Meanwhile, we do look for these guys a little further up the road, and in particular we look to David Camano as we see here the Gavan Gardener red driver who was leapfrogged by Russell Fowler through strategy. So Fowler dodging the danger man, if you will. They're trying to chase down the other Gavan Gardener car of Gonzalez, which is only 2.3 seconds up the road. But meanwhile, Camano under pressure here, Tristan Engelstad in the battle for P3 in the silver class as they come down into turn 3. And as they turn through the right-hander, we would imagine that Engelstad now will try and give it everything on the engine in order to be able to make the move. But as they power the way up towards turn number 5, the problem here will be for Engelstad and the fact that Camano is able to make that Lamborghini incredibly wide. He's perhaps one of the strongest defensive drivers in the silver class. And there again, you can see forcing Engelstad to think the long way round. And as Camano comes off the apex there, Engelstad just not able to find a way, not able to make a dent, and that's exactly what Camano's doing. He's just simply putting himself in the right place every time. It doesn't need to be anything boisterous, it just needs to be smart positioning, and that's exactly what is the difference between a driver who will finish on the podium and a driver who just misses out on the podium come the end of it, unless Engelstad can find a way to outwit, to outfox the Lamborghini driver. Alternatively, can he just simply get the better run out of the corner, get Camano to make a mistake, and then go all in for the pass? As they come out of the carousel, meanwhile, it's calming down towards the front of the field in the fact that the top three right now, separated by 4 seconds, 2 second intervals between them. And here we can see the race leader overall and in the gold class, Chris Short of the CSA Blue, as he crosses the timeline to go on to what is for him lap number 17, and will that lap at 203.910 versus Eric Rose's 204.276. So Chris Shorter is gaining a couple attempts a lap, and with that he is now started to put this race to bed, or at least he's trying to, he'll feel. But again, tyre wear could prove to be the difference, as we do know the Porsche very aggressive on its tyres, and when the tyre life does come down, the Porsche struggles immensely versus its peers as they head towards the end of a given race. As he heads into turn number 5. Meanwhile, we look back to what is actually the third place driver here with Matt Shorter 4 seconds behind him. Between them is Davide Favo, the P11 bronze driver, who's a lap down now on the lead drivers of the field. And Zanoon still in the podium playoff places here as he makes his way in towards turn number 6. In the fact, third place, he's got a comfortable margin to Matt Shorter, and he'll be hoping that margin does stand, but Shorter is matching for lap time on average, with that last lap to do was the faster of the two, but he's not quite on the pace of Rose from Chris Shorter, who are ahead of him here, so he may have found himself in a bit of a stalemate. And in towards the carousel, we do look for our top 3 gold drivers to a bit further back down the order, and in particular we look back to Nigel Stock, who now encroaching on the back of his teammate from the silver class from Crest Autosport, Ben Bennyworth, and I wonder whether they may be on the radio to the team principal right now, talking about how they negotiate this. Do they let Stock go, knowing the fact that he is bronze leader by 4.7 seconds over Fritz? Alternatively, do they just simply say to the 2 Crest Autosport drivers, it's up to you guys to battle and enjoy it whilst you do, as they make their way down towards turn at number 8. No signs right now of Stock trying to tease out a move, but he's got to be conscious of the fact that he spends too long behind his teammate. Should he feel he's being held up on pace, then this man, the Australian Whiskey Runners racer, Daniel Fritz, may be able to get himself back into the battle for the winning class. We're looking from them to Victor Chamorro. We can see here Chamorro on the inside defending versus Jan Crank, and well, the Dutchman coming back at the Spaniard as they head up through turn number 12 and up towards 13. They do have behind them Russell Fowler, and Fowler here, knowing that these guys are essentially blocking him from chasing down Sergio Gonzalez, and I think right now Russell Fowler will really be thinking about whether he can try and put a move on or try and force a move out of this battle as they make their way up towards the timeline. We look back to the rear of the Spaniard of Chamorro as they head in towards turn number 1. And right now the Ferrari 488 Evo driver, get ready to go on the brakes. You can see they're putting the car in the middle of the road before gradually bringing it over to the racing line right before the brake marker. I think Chamorro right now not confident in the speed he's got versus that Porsche, but here comes Fowler, and Fowler I think now he's got to go all in here. He needs to clear these drivers. If he doesn't, then it is going to be Gonzalez who just naturally springs away at the front of the field, and the time is running out. It may be 23 minutes left on the clock, but let's reassure you in the fact with the lap times around here being just over 2 minutes, when you do the mathematics, it does mean that we have very few laps remaining. In fact, when you've only got 22 minutes, that's 11 laps plus the lap they're currently on, and therefore for our drivers it's all about now getting a hurry up to go battling on the final couple of laps. But meanwhile, as we look back to David Camano versus Tristan Engelstad for P3 in the silver class, whereas Camano versus Engelstad all the way around there. Camano once again holding on as they head up the hill into turn number 6, and Engelstad I think feeling as though he was 90% of the way there around the outside, but 90% is not 100%, and Camano just simply outthwarting the Quad-Dash Racing Mercedes, and that Lamborghini right now definitely showing everybody the ropes as they made their way through turn number 8, and Camano again nicely planted. No need to be over aggressive with the car, just take it easy and the car will be easy for you. And as they come down through the carousel here and up towards turn number 11, where Engelstad now will have to try and find another trick in the book which he can throw at his rival. Then in to the king. One of the things that we could see Engelstad trying to do is back off for a while and just lead Camano into a bit of complacency in the idea that he can turn down the wicket. Perhaps that's what's needed. Perhaps Camano really thrives in these conditions where he's constantly under pressure and he gets the best out of it. But as soon as you take the wing down a little bit, it does lead to the driver just losing a slight bit of focus. Indeed, there's many a real-world example of that where drivers, when they're not 100% focused, they do start to lose out quite considerably on pace. But meanwhile, speaking of moves being made, Nigel Stock has switched places with Ben Bennyworth. We're seeing the aftermath here. They made the switch, as we understand it, at Canada Corner at turn number 12. So now Nigel Stock is going to take that bronze lead even further away from his peers. Daniel Fritz, the best part of 5 seconds behind. Well, I think right now for Fritz, it's all about the charge and whether he can find a way to get back into the fight. As they head on to what them is lap number 19. Meanwhile, we do look to Alfonso Marin, who's tucked in behind the bronze driver Matthew Sheraton, and the silver driver here of Marin tucked in close behind as they head into what is their turn number 14. And through the right hand they go, and up towards turn at number 1. And the team charge their way on the start of the straight. It's Ford GT, it's American muscle versus German muscle, and well, the two of them could not be closer. Albeit it looks like the Ford GT has just gradually pulled away a little bit of a gap, but now the Mercedes is coming back towards the very top end of its gearing as it comes through turn number 1. Marin all over back of Sheraton, but not able to find a way to get on through as they come down towards turn number 3. Looking to the inside there, and he can't quite find it with Lee Horn a bit further back and keeping his eyes on the battle as well. So keep your eyes out for Lee Horn. He may just find himself into this battle sooner than we realise it, but as they continue to push on. And meanwhile, things have gone a bit wrong for Wesley Lewin, who's gone round there, and that is, I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, the final corner. So the P10 bronze driver holds on to position right now. Albeit I think he'll feel as though he didn't want to have that spin, given that Davide Favo will now start to close up, albeit the gap between Lewin and Favo is still 20 seconds. So there's plenty of time for Wesley Lewin to hold on here as he makes his way out towards turn at number 1. As he brings things back together. Meanwhile, we bring you back to the battle that's coming together for P3 in the silver class, Romano versus Engelstad. And as they wind their way towards the end of another lap, Engelstad right there once all over the back of that Romano going into turn 14. And you see what Engelstad's now trying to do, I think he's trying to always position himself on the outside of the racing line. The idea being to try and get into Kamano's head, that Kamano can't take the full bit from the corner anymore. In fact, he has to take an inside line because of the fact Engelstad will try to go round the outside every time. But as they drag race their way towards turn 1, gets closer and closer to Engelstad. Kamano positions the car in the middle. Engelstad fully committed this time to the inside. And I think that if he had been even a couple hundreds closer, Engelstad would have gone for it. But instead gets a good run off the corner. And Kamano not strong this time around. Notice he's having to defend hard here. Goes a little bit deep on the corner. Engelstad gets the better exit, and that's the exit he needs. He hasn't come back perfectly, but he's come back enough. But he's pulled the gap halfway down the straight down to a 10. Now he's going to be making it around the outside. Kamano will make him work the hard way, much like we saw a couple of laps ago. But now Engelstad really getting involved here, getting into the mind of Kamano. Kamano tries to outbrake the Mercedes driver, holding around the outside there, and Engelstad made to back off this time, but putting all this pressure on Engelstad, really now trying to wear into Kamano's tyres, into his brakes, and also his energy as a driver as they make their way through turn 6 into 7, into the right hander they go, and Kamano right now keeping up a stalwart defence. But for how long will it be before we see some potential chinks in the armour, some breakages in that defensive wall? Well, we've got 18 minutes plus the final lap still to go, and Kamano and the KFM Motorsport team will be absolutely pushing it to the limit right now. I can imagine the team will be giving all the motivation as they come down through the carousel, and we saw a slight drift wide there from Kamano. The rear starting to step out a little bit, and Engelstad also picking up some understeer. So both drivers here are really pushing the tyres to the limit, and as they head on down the back straight, no exchange. But meanwhile, we have had a move of position here between Jake Pitt and Elwin Sykes as we continue to see Jake Pitt materialise from in and out of the ether, and Elwin Sykes have been passed by the Ford GT driver B7 in the bronze class on the exit of turn 3 up towards turn number 5. Then he goes on to the brakes here, and Stephan Wessels very shortly coming up behind the CSA pink driver. I think will be given an opportunity to make the move on the CSA green driver. He does indeed round the outside of turn at number 7. And as they head down towards turn at number 8, well, right now Elwin Sykes just, I think, focusing on doing everything he can here to bring home that P8, some good points on the board. It's not quite the result from Suzuka, but still he'll remember fondly that result and know that he's still bringing in the points. But we look back to the battle for P3 in the silver cars, one of the closest battles. We will keep returning to it, and again there we see Engelstad with the cutback coming out of 1, and Kamano immediately goes defensive through the Kinker 2 into the corner of 3. As they exit this time, Engelstad a bit further back, not quite as close on corner exit, so therefore he won't have the opportunity that he's previously had, and instead will have to wait his turn as they come down towards 5, and will Kamano now be given an opportunity to breathe a little bit heading to turn 5, or will he? As in fact, in the transition to 6th gear, it looks like the Mercedes of Engelstad does pick up a little bit more than we expected. They switch back here for a left-hander, and heading up towards the turn in number 6. Comando defending there on the rise into the bump in the road. And, well, you've got to be careful. It can make a car very nervous to get a poor run out of 6. Engelstad trying to go around the outside here. That's very bold to try. Doesn't quite work out and instead has to wait. Meanwhile, we are hearing that Gavan Gardener has fallen down to P9 in the gold class from what was P7 previously. And what exactly happened to the number 11 NXTGEN Racing Team Pink driver? Making its way down towards the left-hander, turn number 8. The rear of the car steps out. You can see they went quite deep into the corner under braking, and as he returns, gets the car off the racing line, and that's what led to a good number of drivers coming through, including what was a Russell Fowler, also Sergio Gonzalez, Ian Craig, and Victor Shimaro. So therefore, Garner losing multiple places through one pivotal mistake. But as we return it to the live pictures now, making its way in towards turn number 14 through the right-hander, and for Gardner. Now the trick will be to try and recover what he's lost with Shimaro. To be fair, well, we may not have the pace of Gardner, but Shimaro will try and embody a little bit of the spirit from his teammate of Stephan Wessels, and I think it's going to be a tough task for the Ferrari drivers to find his way past the fellow Ferrari. But with 15 minutes on the clock, Jan Crack's still trying to look for a move in to turn 1. We will get that move done. That's Jorge Santos backing off the throttle. And in fact, that's not Jorge Santos, that's Davide Favo, we should say. And as they head down towards turn number 3, will Crack right now on the brakes with the pressure of Shimaro and Garner behind. And the Porsche 992 driver here, we're seeing a much better race 2 through after a difficult race number 1. Again, the sole retiree at the start of the race for the gold class. As he heads up towards turn number 5, he's got the building pressure, 2 Ferraris behind. He hasn't got any gold giants in front of him, ready to give him a target to aim for at the moment, with Jamie Dory being the best part of what is 11 seconds clear. So Crack right now really trying to stem the tide as it approaches behind him. Going into left-hander and turn number 6, you can see Shimaro and Gardner stepping over the top of one another here, and that's exactly what Crack needs to do in the number 24 Porsche. He needs to get the 2 drivers behind him to battle each other hard, and if he can do that, then he will feel safe, I think, for the remainder of the race. But 14 minutes left on the clock. It's easier said than done. Indeed, it's a long way to go here with the racing at this close. And well, for them right now, it's all going to come down to fine margins. As we can tell you that Mount of P3 silver class, Tristan Engelstad has had an off track, which has put him almost 2 seconds back from Shimano. So therefore, he's got to try and recover all the time he's lost. So therefore, that battle will subside for a moment. Yeah, Crack here, we ride on board and look back from still as he makes his way through turn number 12 and through turn number 11 up to 12. And we'll defend here is counter-board. It's a move around the outside from into Shimaro, but has he done enough? He oversteps the corner slightly, and Jan Crack just about holds on. But look at Gavan Gardener now, who tries to go inside to outside. He has the back as well into 39. There's no way through for the 2 Ferraris. And as they come into turn number 14, well, right now they're both very eager to make headway, but in doing so they're only causing themselves some mistakes and stumbling blocks as they go on to what is now lap number 23. But looking from them a bit further down the road, this is Alfonso Marin versus Lee Horn in the battle for P8 in the silver class, and as they make the way all the way onwards towards what is turn number 12 shortly coming through the kick. Well, right now Horn close behind and trying to get into the fight as he does so, not able to do so. But meanwhile, as they head in towards the braking zone, I can see there's some damage in fact in the front right quarter panel of Alfonso Marin's car around the front right wheel. That's not going to make the car very comfortable. Must be worried about the wheel, the tyre, we should say, rubbing against the deformed bodywork. Hopefully it's not the case, otherwise we might see a bit of smoke coming out of the car. And as they come through turn number 14, wait to turn once more as they head up towards the timeline from them. We have heard there's been a bit of an incident with John and Meredith only moments ago. We take a look back at what happens to Meredith, the racing driver. Running currently in P13 in the bronze class, and at the time was doing so as well. Into turn 5 and just goes a bit overly deep there and misses the corner slightly. In fact, I believe that may actually be a turn number 8. We correct ourselves, they're going into the carousel and gets the car off circuit and rejoined in a safe manner. As we return to the live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, we do look from what is the battle here for P8 and P7 in the silver class, back to the battle for the lead of the silver class, and this has crept up on us quite rapidly. Remember, we said about Russell Fowler was the fastest driver in the class. He just needs to be released onto the world. He's being released right now onto Sergio Gonzalez, who has to defend hard here, and the Kevin Motorsport yellow driver today now having to earn that win through not just strategy but also through defensive workmanship and craftsmanship as they make their way up towards turn 14. Was the coming to the right hand, and now it is going to be all about Fowler looking for a way on in, but can he do so? That's the question as we ride on board here with Force Esports driver and charging onwards towards turn number 1. As they head up through the gearbox here, well for Fowler right now, he knows he's got an ace up his sleeve. He knows he's the faster driver out of the two of them at this point in the race, so therefore he can play a little bit more with where he opts to try and make the overtake. But of course the downside of that is the overconfidence that potentially comes, and in the end you start to assume that overtake will just naturally happen, and that's something you can't assume, because otherwise time runs out in the race, and before you know it, you've not taken the win, you've taken second place and lost some key points. But whilst they have a little bit of a moment where it's gone quiet, meanwhile in the battle for what is P7 in the gold class, coming out of turn number 3 into the drag race down towards 5, that is Victor Shimura, who's gone all the way around the outside from turn 1 down towards turn 5. He goes and gets it. Gavan Gardener switches the outside back to the inside. Crack cuts the inside here, looking to go on the brakes to defend, but also go on the offensive versus Shimura, but he does the defense. Shimura goes deep here. Shimura with a bit of a power oversteer there as they make their way off the corner. It's going to be Crack on the inside as they head in towards turn number 6, side by side, rubbing doors as they come on through, and well, they both just about survive it. Shimura there almost onto the grass, but Jan Crack comes back once again. This is brilliant racing from the 24 driver, and as they make their way in towards turn number 8, he's definitely doing everything in his power to hold on to this P7. He's fixed himself to it, that's his mindset, and my goodness is he going for it. But as they come down through the carousel with Gavan Gardener right now, we'll be looking at this and thinking, okay, we've got a growing front now. Gianni Tahar, he's getting closer and closer. In fact, Tahar is now only 7.5 tenths behind. He's come from what's 4 seconds back over the last couple of laps, and as Gardener goes wide there through the king, the tyres might be giving way on that Ferrari, giving out Hardy's having to push them, and that's going to make it important to the clutches, the encroaching Mercedes behind, and it's not going to be a comfortable place. And meanwhile, we can see here Shimura trying to go around the outside, but just not able to carry the momentum all the way around, and Crack once again just simply instating himself there and making himself an absolutely stubborn car to be in the way and not letting the pass come about. But as they head on towards the next lap, meanwhile we look to Gaz Williams, who right now under some pressure from Jeremy Dory. This is the battle for P5 in gold class, the final top 5 spot here today overall as well, and we can see it there just a little bit further up the road. We do have what is there, the cars are a lap down, and this is the Frente and also Wesley Lewin. They'll both be mindful of the fact that blue flags will be waving, and therefore they will need to be polite to Williams and also Dory and let them pass effectively, or we not lift off the throttle, but just give them the opportunity to make the overtaking move. But meanwhile, heading into turn number 3, that's Victor Shimura, and I think this time he may have got the move done for P7, albeit we still Crack trying to come back in for one last run, as meanwhile Nigel Stock is into the pit lane from the lead of the bronze class, so it is a late pit stop for Nigel Stock. It's a surprise, not a welcome one to be sure. So Shimura defending hard here versus Crack as they come into left-hander, and as they make their way through turn number 5, Jan Crack's going to go wide. Gardner now will rejoin, he's going to be on the inside. It will be on Crack going into turn number 6, and NXTGEN Racing Team Pink driver goes all in. He places all his bets here now around the outside of turn number 7, and a little bit of a knock to the side of the car. Gianni Tahar goes up behind but can't find his way on in, and meanwhile whilst all this is playing out, we can tell you that the battle for the silver lead has taken a step further in the fact as they make the way out of the carousel. Gonzalez now under pressure, once again being harried all the way all through the kink and up towards Canada Corner, and look at Fowler here, he's all over the back, and Gonzalez just being deft in his positioning, making sure he owns the inside line. Door rubbing between them, more door rubbing as they come down in to turn at number 12. As long as they keep it clean, we don't mind. And as they make their way through the corner up towards 13, well, Gonzalez and Fowler right now, if we're looking at a championship rivalry that's reaching boiling point, I think this is the one. The silver championship leaders fighting hard here for the win, and as they come through turn at number 14, you can understand why Gonzalez wants this win, because it will enable him to come back at Fowler and gain back the points that he lost, where Fowler took the win in at the sprint race today, with the points being equal in at both of the races. And as they head down towards turn 1, 6 minutes left on the clock. By the time they clear turn 1 and bound down towards turn number 3, and with that in mind for Sergio Gonzalez, now it's all about just digging in for a little bit longer. As we look back here to the battle for P8 in the gold class, It's Gavan Gardener versus Jan Crack. Gardener around the outside there. Crack trying to give him all the battling room available, which is very little. And Gardener there making the move, count around the outside. A very smooth move from the NXTGEN Racing Team Pink driver. And in time as well, timely fashion, because Gianni Tahar is right now on the back of this and also trying to get involved and eager to try and make a final bit of headway. As they head it down towards turn at number 5, well, will we see Tahar look for the move? Will we see Crack try and have another shot at Gardener? He thinks about it here, goes on the break, but Gardener takes his race line feeling comfortable. But as they exit the corner, meanwhile, we look a bit further back, and this is the fourth place driver in the silver class of David Kamano, which is the Englishman finally finding his way on through. Kamano right now having to just settle for P4, and meanwhile, whilst that's going on, I think we have had a bit of an instant. Russell Fowler has taken the lead in the silver class. Sergio Gonzalez off track at turn number 8 from what I'm hearing. But what exactly happened? Well, we can immediately find out because we do have a replay. As they battle their way down towards the corner here on the brakes, Gonzalez ahead but just oversteps the corner under braking too much speed, and in the end Fowler is able to tease out an error from the 55 Ferrari. Well, the Kevin Motorsport yellow driver does not make mistakes, they're a rarity, and I think Fowler there definitely right now should buy himself a lottery ticket to see a mistake like that come from Gonzalez, as now Fowler's got to try and keep Gonzalez at bay for the remaining 5 minutes of today. And I think the Performance Lane Esports driver, now that he has been unleashed into clear air, he may just be able to do the trick, as he is holding a 1.1 second gap, and that gap right now continues to push the way of Fowler as he makes his way onto another lap. Meanwhile, we do look from them to the bronze class driver Daniel Fritz, who's trying to have a little bit of a poke versus Jack Barker for P16 overall. The silver class driver ahead of the bronze driver. Well, I think here is going to be more about them just setting the position before the end of the race, given the fact that Barker is currently P6 in the silver class, and meanwhile Fritz is your bronze leader, and we're in a comfortable bronze lead indeed, with a 5-second advantage over James Mazga's Gals. He doesn't need to do anything fancy here in order to take the class win. He just needs to keep the car on circuit. Fritz taking that lead over Nigel Stock, had to make that unexpected second pit stop, and well, let's see if we can find out what exactly that pit stop was for. Francis damage on the car earlier for the first stop. Francis underfueled for the first stop. Well, we don't know the true story, but what we do know is that right now there's a heavy maintenance for GT that's still trying to go hunting after P6 in the bronze class. This is Jay Pitt, the Welshman, trying to chase down Elwin Sykes. They come to return in number 11. And as they do, right now Pitt's still waiting there, not quite able to look for a move here. And Elwin Sykes, I think, getting the overspeed with the undamaged, or relatively undamaged, so BMW M4, but goes very deep into the corner, gets it together, and Pitt almost follows him there under braking, and so therefore no change between them as they make their way up to return to 13. As they make their way towards the end of this lap and on to the next one, they will go. Only a couple more laps in the tank for our drivers. I suspect the fuel tank should be saying the same. We look to Lee Horn versus Lou England, as we can see the two Porsche 992 drivers here battling for P70 in the silver class, with P19 overall. As they come down the hill and into the break, they've got Jorge Santos behind, who's P3 in the bronze class, right now on course for his best result of the season. Horn goes a bit wide there. England's going to look up the inside, or is he? No, he can't quite find it, can England, and therefore will have to wait. But you can imagine there, I think he was feeling that there was a bit of a dicey opportunity, but in the end up playing the smart card, which is just to stay behind. Switches on one side to the other. England getting very, very feisty. Horn pins him to the inside. Side by side they come out of turn number 8, and as they make their way towards the carousel, well, England is going to have to try and carry it all the way around the outside, but Horn holds him at bay as he makes his way out to the racing line. And as they come out the carousel now, it's going to be pressure aplenty as we look back from the rear of the Horn's Porsche to the Charlie Porsche of England, and the number 28 Porsche right now definitely on the offensive here as they come through the king. Now heading up towards turn number 12, nose to tail here, and they can battle as much as they want with a gap of what is the best part of 7 seconds to Alfonso Marin. So therefore they won't put themselves too much under pressure, but Horn goes slightly deep. Gravel finds him, and as it does, it's to the grass, and Lou England takes the place of him for P7 there. All mistake from Lee Horn, and the pressure just too much in the end. But meanwhile, we then look for them to two NXTGEN Racing drivers battling. It's NXTGEN Racing Team Purple's Gaz Williams versus Pink Dory, and as they come on through, what is their turn of them down towards that, they've got Nestor Fu tucked in behind it, albeit a lap down, getting a popcorn seat view of this battle as they head into turn 8, and Will Dory there trying to mark it around the outside. He can't quite find it, as Williams right now really digging in for this final spot of the overall and the goal. gold top 5 as they come off of the carousel. But as they make their way on around, we ride on board with the car of Jamie Dory. Runs very wide, he just about catches the car, picturesque to the wall, but Dory there trying to take too much speed out the corner, and that may be the end of that battle. It may be all she wrote for the fight for P5 here today, but as he now brings himself back together. Meanwhile, we do look back to the exterior cameras here, and most of our battles now seem to have subsided, at least for a brief moment. We are hearing that Gianni Tahar was able to find his way past the young Kraken, but this is how it happened. We have a replay. And it's a battle for P11 overall, P9 in the gold class. It was a drag race down towards turn number 1. Gianni Tahar on the outside, Crack on the inside. The two Dutchmen winning the braking zone pretty much level, and then Tahar able to outbrake his rival. In fact, Tahar was a bit ahead before the braking zone. We should correct ourselves there, and able to make the move stick in time. A nice move there from Tahar, and I think young Crack may have just run out a bit of rubber right at the end of this race, given how hard he's been battling. But to be fair, nothing can be taken away from his fight as Jamie Dory tries to come back and Gaz Williams here on our live pictures. But with only 15 seconds left in this race, here is your race leader overall. He's on lap number 29. It is Chris Shorten, the CSA Blue, and it will mean that we'll only have 29 laps here today, because he is on the final lap now as the clock is about to strike the 1 hour mark. And there it goes. The checker flag will be out when he comes around this time. And you see Eric Rose of 2 seconds back there, and right now trying to keep him honest. But the thing is that Eric Rose, the lap times between the two of them have been matched left, right, left. In fact, we will show you the relative lap time between them, the lap time history, if you will. And well, here it is. And you can see over the last 5 laps, there's been nothing in it. If Shorter has gained on 1 lap, then Rosa has gained on the next lap, and vice versa. And as they make their way towards the end of this lap, I think it will be for the pair of them. They'll feel as though they've kept each other equal, they've kept each other honest, and we could see a bit of a rivalry building in the gold class. Nate Rose have joined pretty much mid-season. It will be for Rose really to see how many points he can get come the end of the season. But meanwhile, for this man, he's going to make it 2 out of 2 on his return to the grid. And what after a phenomenal drive to victory in the sprint race, he's going to do it once again in the feature. Chris Shorter is your double winner here today in the gold class, and overall ahead of Eric Rose at P2. And then it will be Akram Zanoon who completes the gold podium. P3 there in class for Gavan Motorsport Red, in another strong showing ahead of Matt Shorter P4, as Shorter there making his way into what is the final corner in a car that's limping right now. What's happened to Matt Shorter? I think he's run out of fuel, and that's going to lead to Williams coming through to take P4 ahead of Jamie Dory as they make their way to the line. And as they do, it will then be Russell Fowler who makes it 2 out of 2 in the silver class today. The Performance League Esports Drive doing it in style ahead of Sergio Gonzalez, who comes home runner-up in the silver class with a brilliant battle with Russell Fowler all the way to the finish. And then it will be Victor Shamar ahead of Gavan Gardener with Gianni Tahar P10. And then very shortly, Jan Crack ahead of Tristan Engelstad, who will complete his run to the 3rd spot on the silver podium. But as he across the line, we then have David Camano just behind with Ben Bennyworth a further 7.5 seconds back as he takes P5 in the silver class, and Matt Shorter in the end not able to make it to the end, so I think he will continue to lose places as Jack Barker will make his way out of the final corner here to finish P16, a season best finish in the overall category, and a P6 class, a season best finish in the silver class as well in the feature races, and he will finish just ahead of Daniel Fritz, who takes his first bronze class win of the season. He missed it at Suzuka, but he takes it in the feature of Road America, and a solid drive for the Whiskey Runners Racing drive from Australia. New England finishes P17, and a great debut showing from the privateer ahead of Alfonso Marinel coming through very shortly to come home at P18 and what is P8 in the silver class. But Jorge Santos comes on through for a run-on to the bronze class, and we're his season best performance in both the overall and the class categories. And Matthew Cheverton forces the Ford GT for Aztec Racing onto the podium there in the 390 for the bronze class ahead of Stephan Wessels P21, and then we do have Jonathan Cook P22 ahead of James Smagsgas-Gow, who will finish P23 at 4th place in the bronze class. And I do believe we have one more finisher to come, and it will be Lee Horn, who will be your final finisher on the lead lap of racing today, ladies and gentlemen. corner, makes his way out of the final corner and up towards the timeline he goes. Well, it hasn't been the result he's wanted necessarily, but still it's the top 10. He'll get points for it, and onwards to the next pair of rounds where we get Lee Horn who crosses the line there. P9 silver, P24 overall. But that concludes all of our racing here today, ladies and gentlemen. And as our drivers make their way around on their cooldown, that's Chris Shorter already heading into the pit lane. What a return to form it has been for the South African driver. We've missed seeing him on the grid, and this is why, because he can turn phenomenal results in time and time again. And as we briefly see him occluded there by the pit barrier wall, and as he makes his way to his pit box, he'll be absolutely pleased with today. But he'll also be wary of this man, Eric Rosev, who with P6 in our first race of the day, and then second place in the feature race. Rosev definitely seems to enjoy the longer races, based on what we've seen here, and he's put those results together phenomenally well. But as he makes his way on down, where it is going to be a solid way to make his debut, and indeed for many of our drivers now as they bring the cars on home, another strong debut here in the form of Matthew Cheverton. Not quite the race he wanted in race number 1, but in race number 2, the Aztec Racing driver delivering as needed in the 394 GT to be on the podium. What a way to do it. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. Chris Shorter taking the overall win in the end for CSA Blue by 1.7 seconds over Racing Lab Esports and Eric Rosev, with KFM Motorsport Reds Akram Zanoon completing the overall podium there and the gold podium. Another podium for Akram Zanoon, and definitely some huge points in the bag. Gaz Williams, P4 there for NXTGEN Racing Team Purple, fending off Jamie Dory to the finish line there for NXTGEN Racing Team Pink, with Russell Fowler, your silver class winner, P6, and making it another top 10 finish overall. And the Performance Link Esports driver just managing to outpace Sergio Gonzalez to the line by 3.4 seconds. And well, in the end, Fowler was always the faster driver, it would seem, but Gonzalez definitely showed his defensive masterclass, and a rare error from the Spaniard is what led to the disastrous end to his race in terms of missing out on that win. But still, he'll take P2, and that championship lead is being slightly cut into now, with the KFM Motorsport Yellow Drive finishing ahead of teammate Victor Chamorro, who finished P8. And then Gavan Gardener for NXTGEN Racing Team Pink, and Gianni Tahar for Quad Dash Racing completed your top 10. Young Crack P11 there for Team Racing Netherlands, the best rest ahead of Tristan Engelstad, your third and final podium finisher in the silver class, with the Quad Dash Racing driver there taking a great result and some huge points coming on in, and really being rewarded for his efforts to pass David Camano, who finished P13 for KFM Motorsport Red and gave it everything he had. Now focusing on the bronze podium finishes in terms of where he finished overall, we can see that in P16 with a season best performance in class and overall, and taking his first win in the bronze class, Daniel Fritz there for Whiskey Runners Racing, the Australian driver finally notching that win on the board. He didn't get it at Suzuka, but he found it today, and well, what a solid drive from the number 31 Porsche. Then we can see it in P19, Jorge Santos, the privateer there, with season best performance and the best performance of his fixed GT3 career. Indeed, he has been in the GT3 League for some time, has the Audi R8 driver, but making it count there with the run-up spot on the podium, P2 in class, and then Matthew Cheverton at P20 there on his debut today, definitely having a very strong feature race in the Ford GT for Aztec Racing, and also completing the top 20 as well as the bronze podium of Fritz, Santos and Cheverton. We then focus on where we saw drivers finish a lap down, and we see Lee Horn, the last of the lead lap finishers, P24 for NXTGEN Racing, and then finishing the lap down, Matt Shorter with that unfortunate end of the race, which I believe saw him run out of fuel before he made it to the finish line, and also there for Nigel Stock, Jake Pitt, Elwin Sykes, Nestor De Fuente, Alex Roggenbuck, Wesley Lewin and Craig Tillerston, and then finishing at 2 laps down, Davide Farmo, Sean Scooter, and then 3 laps down, John Meredith in P35, and then we saw Stefan Albanese Senior finishing 7 laps down, and then our sole retiree who'll be classified as a non-finisher after being out of the race with only a lap turn, well in fact only 3 laps turned, Mark Sykes there for NXTGEN Racing at Team Red. Coming on to the individual classes now. And as we can see, Chris Shorter taking the win in the gold class there for CSA Blue by 1.7 seconds over Eric Rosev, with Akram Zanoon completing the gold podium, and then Gaz Williams and Jamie Dory completing the top 5. Victor Chamorro P6 there, a great performance in the KFM Motorsport Yellow driver from Spain, and holding off Gavan Gardener there just in time, the battle of the 2 Ferraris, and then Gianni Tahar P8 just behind for Quad Dash Racing. Nani was able to steer clear Jan Crack, and credit to the P9 finisher in the number 24. He may not not have brought home a top 5, nor brought it home in P6, which was his target, but he definitely gave it everything, and he put together some absolutely fantastic defending, which we'll remember all season. There's no question about it. Stephan Wessels P10 there for CSA Pink in a difficult day today after what was a relatively strong showing in the sprint race. Meanwhile, in the feature race, it's not been as strong. Some difficulties there for the CSA Pink driver, and 9, there's still plenty of work to do. Jonathan Cook P11 for Performance Link Esports ahead of Matt Shorter, the sole effective driver who finished a lap down due to the fuel issue right at the end, and the CSA Green driver missed out on the top 5 finish and having to settle for P12. Then coming to the silver class, we can see Russell Fowler taking the win for Performance Link Esports by 3.4 seconds over KFM Motorsport Yellow's Sergio Gonzalez, with Tristan Engelstad a further 15 seconds behind. The top 2 are in a class of their own today, but Engelstad will take the victory in the lesser of the classes, if you will, in terms of track positions, but he'll still feel very proud and in equality with Fowler and Gonzalez for sharing the podium with them in P3. Behind the Quad Dash Racing driver, David Camano and Ben Bennyworth rounded off your top 5, with the Crest Autosport driver putting together another great result, ahead of Motor Racing Jack Barker. And then Lou Eagle in P7, the privateer, on his debut, ahead of Alfonso Marin, Lee Horn, who was the last silver driver to finish on the lead lap, and then Nestor De La Fuente finishing a lap down P10 for KFM Motorsport Yellow, and best of P11 there, Stefan Albanese Senior, finishing 7 laps down. Then lastly, coming onto the bronze class, we can see here for the first time this season and in his career in the GT3 League at NXTGEN Racing, Daniel Fritz taking the win for Whiskey Runners Racing by 21.4 seconds over Jorge Santos. Santos taking his first ever podium in the bronze class, and what a performance there from the number 32 Audi driver, ahead of Matthew Sheraton by the best part of a second in the end. But Sheraton was closing, but he didn't have enough laps in order to try and bring Santos down to terms. And then James Mansell finishing P4 there, missing out on a double podium for Aztec Racing, but you'll still be pleased with that performance. Ahead of Nigel Stock, the first driver to finish a lap down in the bronze class. He finished P5 for Crest Autosport, not quite able to mirror that win in the sprint race due to a second stop being required. Most likely, I suspect, for fuel needs to be put in the car, and I think the first pit stop may have been for repair work. And we can see Jake Pitt, Elwin Sykes, Alex Roggenbach, Wesley Lewin, and Craig Tillerston completing your top 10, and with it also all finishing a lap down. Then finishing 2 laps down at Davide Favo, the same for Sean Scooter. A difficult day today for the CSA Blue driver, missing out in the win in the sprint race due to a retirement, and in the second race today, missing out due to an incident. And then John Meredith finishing 3 laps down for Meredith Racing, ahead of Mark Sykes, the sole retiree in the bronze class, and in the end only turning 3 laps before the retirement, and therefore a non-finisher. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of our racing here today at Road America. But it doesn't necessarily conclude our show, for we've got some post-round interviews coming up with up to 3 of our drivers volunteering. So we'll be back for those in approximately 10 to 15 minutes time. And indeed, as we get ready to go, you won't want to go anywhere. But when we come back from those post-round interviews, you definitely won't want to miss them. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And today we have 3 interviews with 2 drivers from the silver class and 1 from the bronze class, and we're going to sandwich them appropriately. In fact, we're going to start off by hearing from Russell Fowler, our double winner in the silver class today, who was able to run away with things in the sprint but had to work hard in order to overtake Sergio Gonzalez and take the win in the silver class right at the end of the feature. And then in the second interview, we'll be hearing from Nigel Stott, the bronze class winner in race number 1, only to miss out in the second race with a 5th place finish, and we'll hear more about that second pit stop and what exactly happened. And then we'll be going from the Crest Autosport driver to Made for Races Jack Barker, hearing his perspective on what has been 2 of his finest performances of the season thus far, with P7 in class in the sprint and the P6 in the feature. Without further ado, now Russell Fowler joins me in the interview room, and as we welcome Russell to the interview room, good evening to you, Russell, and well, what a day you've had at Road America. In short, you've been absolutely on fire, and nobody was going to stop you from making a double winning class today.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. I'm not sure if I completely agree with that, because I had some good tough battles during especially the feature race, but yeah, chuffed to bits, absolutely. I think I came in feeling really confident, just for some reason really clicked with the car and the track this week, so yeah, it was great to be like a half a second in front, I think, in quali. That's really unusual, but very welcome. So yeah, very happy with today.
Oh, most definitely. And speaking of qualifying, what a phenomenal lap to put yourself P3 on the grid. And we saw a lap from yourself. There were multiple occasions where you sort of put yourself inside the top 5. We were wondering whether the gold drivers would dethrone you out of it. And then suddenly you were able to jump yourself right into P3 at the end. You must have been grinning from ear to ear as the qualifying session ended.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I knew there was a little bit more time there. I was just, praying like you do to kind of just hook the lap together. I had speed in each of the sectors, but it's just getting that lap together. So yeah, to do that at the end was brilliant. And I think each of my laps in quali, I was within a couple of tenths. So yeah, I'm just reveling in this now because I know it won't last. So because quali normally isn't my thing. Both Jono, my teammate, and I always suffer a little bit in quali. Can't quite hook the lap together, but it worked today, and I'm really pleased it did. Set me in good stead for the sprint race.
Oh, most definitely. And then going into the sprint race, we saw you really starting in amongst the gold drivers rather than your silver class peers. A relatively cool start, and I suspect as the race went on, the focus became more and more about taking the silver win rather than trying to take some gold scalps.
100%. Despite Jono constantly in my ear saying, "Go on, go on," I was like, "No, I'm managing my race here. The only thing I care about is." Managing the gap to the next silver guy, Sergio, who in the feature race was really quick. So my 100% focus from the word go was just to get that lead in silver and keep it. So despite a bit of goading from my teammate, I let a few people pass, including Jono, although obviously he'll say he pulled out an amazing overtake, obviously, but I was managing. I didn't care where I finished in the overall positions. I was just interested in finishing first in silver, since I had pace, and I just wanted to convert that to a result, really.
Well, a very smart and sensible approach there, and bringing on home a key win which will help you close the gap at the top of the table to your main rival, Sergio Gonzalez. And then going into the feature race, now having to start from the back of the class. We saw you make some early progress, which we're reliving now on the replay footage here, but it also did look as though as you carved your way through the field, every driver you came up against, but whether it's KFM Motorsport or the others, everybody was trying to put up a wall to stop you from going through, given your pace.
I'm glad you saw that on the stream. That's definitely how it felt in the seat. Yeah, there was a little bit of blocking going on, I think, but all's fair and all that. So I was patient. I was kind of playing the long game a little bit, just because I knew I had the pace to close back to the leaders. So Yeah, I just played the long game a little bit, and I was a bit worried towards the end because Sergio just found a load of extra lap time. He was really pushing, and I was just struggling to close the gap down. But luckily, with about 10 minutes to go, I think I caught him, and we had a great few laps. Hats off to Sergio, brilliant, brilliant racer. We just, it was a great little battle. Managed to force a bit of a mistake because, frankly, he was defending very well, and it would have been a real do or die throw up the inside move, I think, that would have been required on the last lap or something. So yeah, pleased it didn't come to that. And yeah, the feature race obviously went well. I timed that well. Yeah, I'm just pleased I had the pace to have a bit of flexibility, because I pitted really early as well, because I was being held up a bit, and I thought, well, I'll just pit early rather than try and make some dodgy moves, and that worked. That got me past I think 1 or 2 people, and then it was just about chasing Sergio down. So yeah, it's all good stuff. We're having a good after a few rounds, it seems that we're having a good tussle, and there's some other really fast guys in this class as well, so always good to come out with a win.
Oh, most definitely. And just on that strategic decision, we saw you pit 17 minutes into the race, and we suspect at the time, and you validated it, it was effectively an undercut to try and enable you to gain some places. I have to ask, did you always have that as a reserve strategy in mind, or did you feel it was a gamble given how early you pitted compared to everybody else in the race? You were the first driver to take a pit stop.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that. I wouldn't say I went into the race with that in mind. With these things, you have to play the hand you're dealt, and I think it was the right thing to do. Was a bit of a gamble, because obviously carrying a little bit more fuel for, or a little bit extra fuel for longer in the race. So I tried to put in some, quali laps, and was pushing a little bit too hard. Didn't quite manage to. I think I was aiming to get into the 203s for 3 or 4 laps to try and make that undercut work. I didn't quite manage that. But yeah, I came out, I think, maybe 5 seconds, I think, behind Sergio once he'd made his pit stop. So at that point, I thought, actually, that's not bad. That didn't turn out too badly. Like you say, bit of a gamble, but no, I didn't go into the race with that strategy in mind. I tend to try and go as long as I can, and pit as late as possible as a general rule. I think it was the right thing to do in this race, given what was going on.
Oh, most definitely. And after coming out the pits and the rest of the drivers making their pit stops, you re-emerge in P2, and then there was just only one driver left standing between you and that win. Eventually, when you got to him after having to pick off some traffic, Sergio Gonzalez, and as you said earlier and alluded to, some brilliant battling for multiple laps, and it really took in the end a mistake, a very late one from Gonzalez, in order for you to find your way through.
Yeah, exactly. I could tell he was pushing, just based on the sort of quali pace and the pace in the sprint race. I sensed that he was pushing, so I was sort of just coaching myself a little bit, just do what I was normally doing, smooth. And I mean, I felt slow, and I know that's a bit of a cliche, but I think sometimes when you feel slow, you end up getting better lap times. And it's funny because I'm doing the touring cars as well. Obviously, last night in the touring cars, and some of the skills you need to make it work in touring cars are actually quite transferable. And I think, reflecting on my technique to date, I've been quite heavy-footed with my right foot, and you have to be so smooth in the front-wheel drive cars so you don't understeer too much. And I'm finding that actually that is making a bit of a difference in the GT3 as well. I'm just really focusing on being as smooth as possible on the application of the throttle. So it's actually been good to try different different cars and stuff, which is, I was always a bit of a, I've got to stick to one car, I've got to practice that to death until I'm really good at it. And actually now switching between touring cars and GT3, I think actually there is some sort of transferable skills there. So that's, you know, that's a good tip, I think, for anybody that's looking to improve. For me, it's really helped improve, you know, my racing in a GT3, and probably vice versa. Actually, I don't know, but anyway, I thought I'd share that reflection.
Oh, indeed. I think many will take your advice and apply it in the fact that I'd agree with you. What techniques you apply it to one car, you can apply it to the other. And we'll hopefully see a bit of that for you in the NXTCC next week and also in our next round of the GT3. Speaking of which, after today's performance, it does mean that you've narrowed the gap at the top of the standings. And well, now we head into what will be another round, and I do believe as of what will be round number 5 2 weeks from now, it's going to be the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke in our second endurance race round of the season. How are you feeling for the Green Hell?
Oh, that's a nervous laugh. You know, I love racing there. I don't think I'm particularly fast because I tend to be quite conservative there, but I mean, what a circuit! I mean, you know, it's brilliant fun. So dreading it and looking forward to it at the same time. That's probably the best way of putting it.
Oh, indeed. I think we'd appreciate the sentiment of the fact it's going to be a thriller, but it's also one that's quite nerve-wracking. But we do wish you all the best in your preparations for the legendary German circuit. And just before we do let you go, Russell, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout-out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, big shout out to my teammate Jono and Tom, who couldn't make it today, but Jono and I do a lot of practice together, so always appreciate his help. And shout out to you guys, you know, brilliant commentary, brilliant production. Just, you know, it's great to watch. So thanks for all your efforts, and obviously a big thanks to my family for putting up with my racing habit, which I think I say every time I have one of these interviews, but it's always worth saying, right?
Oh, indeed. It's always good to give a special mention to the family. But with that,
Yeah.
Russell, congratulations on your double win today. And really a dominant day at P1 across the board in the silver class. You worked hard for it, relish it, and we do look forward to seeing you out of the circuit in 2 weeks' time at the Nürburgring.
Brilliant, Paul. Thanks very much. Cheers.
All the best. So hearing there from Russell Fowler, our silver winner today across the board, whether it be in qualifying, alternatively in the sprint and the feature race, and what a day it has been. And he did say to us right at the outfront, don't get too used to this in terms of his performances right at the field, but everything has clicked together today at Road America, and at a pivotal time in the championship as well, in the fact that we have seen the momentum swing back and forth between Fowler and Sergio Gonzalez, and today the momentum goes back into the hands of Fowler at a time where we're getting ready for the second endurance race round of the season, and that's at the Nürburgring 2 weeks from now. Now, Gonzalez, we did definitely see in the feature race, gave it everything to try and keep Fowler at bay, but made a small mistake, which was costly. And that's where Fowler really today was a step above the rest of the field. Not only did he have the pace in order to lead, but he also had the consistency and the car management. And in the sprint race, it was all about managing that race to win the silver class, not to take places in the overall category. Whereas in the feature race, immediately when he started to get caught up behind drivers, with everybody in the field looking to keep him at bay, knowing that once he got past, you weren't going to be staying with Russell Fowler for very long, he decided to switch strategies, come into the pits early. It was a gamble, pitting 17 minutes in. It meant he had to take a lot of fuel into the second stint of the race, but still he made the fuel work, he made the gamble work, and once he had the clearance to go hunt down the race leader, well, the rest was history with regards to the fireworks and the battling, and it's definitely teeing us up for a fantastic round number 5 as we look forward to charging into the second half of the season. And I'd imagine Russell now is looking forward to trying to level the playing field in terms of championship points versus Sergio Gonzalez. We're now coming to our second interview of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We'll very shortly be hearing from Nigel Stock, and his perspective was definitely been one of his strongest performances of the season so far. And as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, we'll get to hear the story fully from him with regards to that win in the first race and missing out on making it 2 wins in a row in the second race of today. But he does join me now in the interview room. And as we welcome Nigel to the interview, good evening to you, Nigel, and how 2 weeks turn things around with regards to performances in the fact a second place in qualifying, a win in the sprint, and a 5th place in the feature, albeit I think you might have felt there was a podium on the cards in the feature, but still a positive day.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, to uh, to win a race after being facing backwards in the gravel trap at turn one, certainly not the best way of winning a race, but I'll take it anyway. And I should have really won at Fuji because I missed my pit thing. I didn't get to my pit thing and ran out of fuel, but at least I finally got a win, and I got. I think I outscored everyone else that's in B class today, so that's something as well. So, and hopefully my don't have any more technical problems for the rest of the season, so I can keep going.
Oh, most definitely. And, well, I'd agree with you there. And I think many tuning in would agree that your season has been one that has been played with a lot of misfortune and bad luck, but not all that misfortune materialising today. And let's talk a little bit about qualifying. P20 overall and critically P2 on the bronze grid, missing out on pole versus Sean Scooter by only half a tenth. It was incredibly close.
Yeah, it was. And the other annoying thing is I was about, I think the next lap, because I think that was the second to last lap I posted that time, and then the next lap I was about 2 tenths up, and then the left-hander before the carousel, I just tried to carry too much speed in the corner on the back end, didn't want to know, and I spun. So I mean, I could have maybe been a bit further up, and then, but ifs and maybes, then I mean, I just have to try and get a pole next time. Oh no, it's a 2-hour race next time, so I can't, can I?
No, indeed, you'll have to wait for round number 6 4 weeks from now, but still missing out by small margins in the end. And knowing that pace is there with the Crest Autosport BMW M4. The first race of the day, bit of drama into turn number 1, which you found yourself in amongst, but still, once that all settled down, you're able to get into the race and very quickly charge up to P2 and then take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just frustrating because going into, well, not even into turn one, and all of a sudden I hear my spotter go 3 wide, and it's like, oh, and before I could even react to it, I'm going backwards. So I don't think it's really a silly move to be going 3 wide into a corner that's not exactly wide enough, but there you go. But I just tried to get going again as quickly as possible and not hit anyone because there were just cars everywhere. And I think there was someone who was across the track and their wheel was going down the grass. And that was on my screen anyway. So that was a bit interesting. But then I just thought I just got to try and fight back and get as high up as I could. So that's what I did and set up after the first B class that I could see on my relative. Yeah, that's basically, and just try and get as many points as I could then.
Oh, indeed. And, well, you recovered to P2 quite quickly, and then Sean Scooter, the class leader, having an unfortunate retirement due to technical issues. You found yourself leading, and I have to ask, when did you discover you were on course to win the sprint?
Well, it's just as I was, because I think I was like I was behind. I think it's one of his teammates in an Audi, I think it was, and I just saw out the corner of my eye the his car on the grass. I was like, oh, there we go. So that's one less I've got to pass. And then I think I passed the Audi going into I think it's turn 4. I think it is turn 3 or 4. And then I think there was still Wesley in front of me as well as a Ford, but I got past the Ford, and then just as I got past the Ford, he lost control and went into the barriers. So that put me into the leader B, and then I just sort of just thought I'll just try and just cruise down to the Vitch because I did my I think my fastest lap on the second to last lap, and I thought, well, it might have been even the last lap, but I could have gone a bit quicker, but I didn't want to risk going that bit quicker and spinning off and ruining it, so I just took it that little bit, just made sure that I crossed the line first.
Well, indeed, a very sensible approach today and taking your first win of the season. It's been a long time coming. And then going into the feature race, it looked as though a very fast start from yourself, but then having to make 2 pit stops, unfortunately, which saw you deprived of the win.
Yeah, because on lap 2 I got caught up in another incident, so it's a bit frustrating. I don't think it was the same person that caused it, but I'm not going to name names or anything. I'm not that kind of person, but it was just literally cars everywhere. And I think the guy that was trying to avoid the crash caught the grass and he just said I had nowhere to go once again. I was just once again wrong place, wrong time. And in the first race, I had wheel damage, but because the crew chief said you've got wheel damage, but it luckily didn't give me a meatball flag. But this time he said wheel damage, and then I got going again, and then the meatball flag came, so I was like, oh, I got a pit. Oh, I pitted, and then I was just trying to go as fast as I could and just try and build a bunch of a gap because I knew I was gonna have to pit again and just try and build the biggest gap as I could to see where I could finish. But then I don't know, at some point or somehow my auto fuel must have not clicked properly because when I came into the pits, it put like 20 gallons in, and I finished with like about 20 laps of fuel, where obviously I didn't need that much at all. But I don't know how that happened. But it just seems to be my luck. But then that's my luck for the last how many seasons we've been doing this now. I think every season I always seem to be just don't have quite the luck. I think it's something to do with the name because Nigel Mansell never had any luck either, really, did he? So.
Oh, very true and very unfortunate for yourself in the second race of the day, but still glad to see you out on circuit, giving it everything to recover as far as you could, and P5 still not a bad recovery, all things considered. Now in 2 weeks' time, we make our way to the Nürburgring for the full 24-hour layout. How are you feeling for the Green Hell?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the greenhouse is definitely the right name. I did the no, I think it was the 24 hours of it of like a few months ago. I was doing okay, but I was doing one of the night stints, and because it's such a big track, I got lost. Literally, I thought I was going round a right-hander that was pretty quick, and then as I got halfway around, realised no, that's not the part of the track I'm on, and ended up climbing the fence and all that, and the car was trashed. So hopefully there's no darkness, but as long as it's daytime, I seem to know the track quite well. But I think it's just going to be literally a bit like tonight, really, just going to be trying to survive the carnage probably because there's not exactly much runoff. So if there is any incidents, the track could easily be blocked with quite because we have quite a lot of drivers. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but yeah, you never know.
Or indeed, you never know, like you say, and we look forward to seeing how you get on at the Nürburgring 2 weeks from today. But just before we do let you go, Nigel, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Well, Crest Autosport, especially Ben, because obviously there was a bit where he let me by when he didn't need to. I still need to thank him. I haven't had a chance to speak to him yet. To yourself for the broadcast, for all the people that run the league, to doing another great league, and friends and family. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, Nigel,
Anyone else watching as well? Sorry.
that's no problem at all. Well, it's been
And for yeah, sorry.
after you. After you, Nigel.
I think I said it now. Anyone else watching who didn't hear it? Sorry.
That's no problem at all. All I was going to say, it's been great as always to have you join me in the interview room, and I'm very pleased to see you secure your first class win of the season. We've been waiting for it for some time, but it has arrived, and will hopefully the good fortune continues to come your way, and we look forward to seeing you out on the circuit in Germany 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully, first of many. Thanks. See you next time.
Have a great night. So hearing there from Nigel Stock, always a pleasure to hear from the Englishman, and we do apologise there for talking over him very slightly towards the end. It's always the way when you both go to talk at the same time on a voice call, and well, that's the limitation of not being able to see each other in person. But still, excuses aside, well, today for Nigel Stock, it really was a day of two halves at Road America. The first half of the day, qualifying, knowing there was a bit more time out there and missing out on pole, in the end only missed out by what was half a tenth, and knowing there were at least 2 tenths in the lap available to him, but still it didn't phase him and went to show that Crystal Autosport brought a great package in the form of the BMW M4 today, and Stock was going to be able to utilise it. We're going into the first race, and we'll be in the gravel trap after turn number 1 and having to turn the car on around. Very unfortunate, but it didn't let him get him down, and very quickly getting back to racing, carving his way through the field, and then with the unfortunate retirement of Sean Scooter, where one driver's misfortune occurred, another's fortune was favoured, and Nigel Stock today happened to be the one in the right place at the right time to have the fortune come his way and finally take that elusive win. But in the feature race, damage picked up towards the start of the race meant that he had to make a pit stop for repair work. Similar damage to in the first race, but this time the meatball flag, or the black and what is orange flag for damage on the car, meaning he had to come into the pits due to regulation, and therefore with the repair work he was always battling against the element, knowing there would be another pit stop, which is something we didn't realise at the time, and therefore in making that second pit stop had to settle for a P5 finish. But still some big points on the board, and like you mentioned, probably the biggest points gain today out of all the bronze class drivers. This championship is by no means out yet for Nigel Stock, and I do imagine that right now he could become a force to be reckoned with if he does pick up a major result at the Nürburgring, and particularly in that daylight he favours his chances around the German circuit, but we'll have to wait and see whether that comes to fruition. We're now coming on to our final interview of the season, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't heard from him in a little while. It's going to be Jack Barker from Made for Racing, but we're going to be hearing his perspective on what has definitely been some better races in the season for himself, and indeed I would argue that he's had perhaps his best race of the season. And as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, we'll get to hear his thoughts on the Mercedes AMG that's kept the spirit alive and continued to charge him from strength to strength. As he gets ready to join me now, I think we can have him join the interview room, and here he is. And we welcome Jack Barker into the interview room. Good evening to you, Jack. And well, today at Road America, you've finally been able to get a solid pair of results on the board, and it looks as though you're enjoying yourself out there in the Mercedes AMG Evo. You perhaps haven't in the last couple of rounds had as much enjoyment due to incidents and whatnot, but here, looks as though you could put together 2 solid races and get some big points into your account.
Yeah. Good evening, Paul. And just say, I've not had the best races so far this season. Yeah, most of it's been my own fault, just crashing and whatnot. But yeah, no, finally good to have 2 races where, whilst I'm still not on pace with the silver class, it's still very good to be able to get those good points finishes just through and not being a victim of crashes. Well, though mostly my own during this time.
Oh, indeed. And talking a little bit about qualifying, P27 on the overall grid, P11 in the silver class there. It looked as though there was quite a scattered amount of pace in the silver class. Of course, with Russell Fowler taking that phenomenal pole lap that put him P3 on the overall grid, all the way to yourself being back down towards the back of the grid. Was there a particular target in mind with qualifying, or was it just see where you got on the grid?
Try to be in front of as many bronzes as possible. And just not get stuck in the bronzes, really. Because I mean, the lap I ended up doing, the 57.444, that was the fastest qualifying lap. That was the fastest lap at all that I'd set in practice in the build-up. So yeah, I was really happy with it. And 27 seemed to just be the perfect place to not be involved in incidents, I guess.
Oh, most definitely. And from your perspective, going into the opening corner in the sprint race, it looked as though it got quite nasty out there. And well, thankfully, you're able to avoid all the carnage. Just take us through, from your perspective, that race start, if you remember it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, starting 27. So I know I messed up the start a little bit. I left a bit too much room to the car in front of me. Not too much, really. And I started in the wrong gear, so I was already off on the wrong foot, which allowed Jake to get past me in the Ford GT. But yeah, no, I was just really looking forward and to just looking to see where people were raking in the anticipation for the concertina, and then just sort of having already lifted off by the time that they start to break, so I know that I'm going to basically just not be at fault for anything that happens. That's sort of the main thing, and yeah, I saw quite a few incidents in front of me, people going free wide and all that, which is never fun for the start, and also for a track this size with the first couple of corners.
Oh, most
Yeah,
definitely. Sorry, go on as you were saying.
Yeah. Just try and keep safe. Listen to the spotter. Watch me radar, and yeah, just stay out of people's way.
And then from that, after things had settled down and you've been able to steer clear of the danger, we got to see you mixing up with a couple of Ford GTs on the grid. The Aztec Racing drivers there, albeit in the end demoted to the bronze class going into the second race. But for the time, both of you in the silver class, and in particular, I think you enjoyed a bit of a battle with Matthew Cheverton.
Not quite sure on the Cheverton part. I might have I might have missed that myself. But yeah, no, great stuff with Jake, and yeah, so it was a real boost of the spirits to be able to fight with someone in my class for once. I mean, whilst yes, they got demoted to bronze between the races, yeah, it was still good. It was still good in the moment.
Oh, 100%. And with that, securing a P7 in class at the end of the sprint race, one of your best performances of the season, and then going into the feature race, really starting in a similar position within the relative silver class to where you finished. Was there a particular target you had in mind for the feature beyond seeing how high you could finish? Did you have a position you were thinking about?
Well, I mean, after Suzuka, the main objective was not crash on the formation lap, which I managed to do last time. But yeah, I mean, one, just not crash, and two, see how long I can keep people behind me. Which, you know, I had a lot of fun in the Mercedes, going against sort of Gonzalez and Camaro, and I think Bennyworth at some point. Yeah, just seeing sort of me have sort of worse exits, juice my skill, and then getting alongside me along the main straight, but then just them not being able to get past, and me sort of sticking around the outside, and then just being able to have some amazing two wides through the first and second corners. They're really fun.
Oh, most definitely. We got to see plenty of moments between yourself as you were defending for P4 in the early stage of the race. And whilst the places may have fallen eventually, it wasn't without a tough fight. And even after the pit stop, we saw you end up in a bit of a no man's land. It looked as though the lap times kept tumbling on down.
Well, it's really funny because, I mean, after the pit stops, I sort of came up behind Fritz in the bronze class. And from that point on, we were just on each other completely. Like, after we got together, I don't think we were ever more than 2 seconds apart, and it was really fun to follow him, and then when he made a mistake, me take the lead and have him follow in, and vice versa when I made another mistake. But yeah, no, it was another weird thing, because throughout that entire thing, it was like we would both have one good lap, overheat the tyres, and then have a bad lap. Cool them back down, and then have another good lap. It was just zigzagging, good to bad, good to bad, good to bad. But yeah, no, there definitely was some drop off. That I noticed that, especially towards the end of the race. But I think most people are having drop offs because yeah, me and Fritz stayed together.
Well, indeed, and great to be racing against a driver who may have been of a different class, but still really getting to exchange lap times and give it everything. And in the end, finishing P15 overall, P6 in class. I do believe that both of those results being season best. It looks as though it's an upturn in form for yourself, and then we've got the Nürburgring in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I mean, I do know that that iRacing has a lot of special events in Nürburgring. But coming from my background in sim racing comes mainly from the Gran Turismo games, and so I have done quite a lot of laps on the Nürburgring, and especially the Nordschleife. yeah, like, whilst I may not have driven it on iRacing, I do feel like I know my way around the circuit. And with my car choice this season, I know in the Proto GT3 season that we just had, not the current one, but the one just before, I know it was in the Audi. But for this season of GT3s, I switched to Mercedes, and that was mainly for this second half of the calendar. Because when driving the Audi, I just got sick of being in the middle of a corner and the rear end just dropping off and going to Narnia and crashing. And whilst with the Mercedes, I have to manage the throttle on out of corners. I just feel so much more stable actually through the corners, and I don't feel like I'm constantly having to fight against the rear end. So I'm looking, hopefully, to have some better results. Like whilst the tracks may not traditionally be for cars, I mean, especially with Canadian Tire in round 6. I am hopefully looking to have some better results.
Well, fingers crossed for you. Those better results do come, and they all start within 2 weeks from now at the German circuit. But just before we do let you go, Jack, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a special thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
And I guess sort of with my sort of history this season, I guess you'll have to say thanks to Jake for the fight in the sprint race, and then thanks actually massive thanks to Daniel for our back and forth in the feature race, because and also like I sort of enjoy sort of exchanging lap times more than actually fighting and overtaking and defending. So it was really fun, and really big thanks to Daniel for being there. And sort of giving me and allowing him to allowing me to give him the respect that we both deserved. And also just a final thanks to yourself for commentating this entire thing, because I've been really busy.
Well, Jack, with that, it's been a pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations on your great pair of performances today at Road America. And, well, we look forward to seeing plenty more from you in the upcoming rounds as we charge our way into the second half of the season. But until then, well, have a fantastic night, and thank you once again.
Thanks, Paul. Good night.
So hearing that from our final interviewee of today, Jack Barker for Made for Race, and you can hear the positivity really coming out in the fact, talking about in the sprint race, having that back and forth battle with Jake Pitt and thoroughly enjoying the 2 wide, and then going into the feature race and only be starting towards the front, starting P4 in the class, and holding at bay multiple drivers who've typically been faster, have really had the edge over Barker this season, but at no point did he find himself lose that. We saw plenty of battling, where it was on the inside or on the outside, and this is the Jack Barker we know, love to see, and the Made for Racing driver really putting himself on the radar today for a good number of drivers. And if he can keep this up, and if he can really bring to life the reason why he chose the Mercedes for this season, which is for the second half of the season, the performance of the car at the circuits are upcoming, there's no reason why we couldn't see him notch his first top 5 in the class, or alternatively even his first podium. But again, one round at a time, and that's the way he's going to be approaching it, and he's going to be taking the enjoyment and all the happy moments from round to round and race to race, and we look forward to seeing plenty more from him as the season continues to heat up. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And you've heard from our 3 drivers. Firstly, of Russell Fowler in the silver class, the Performance Link Esports driver who was our double winner today in the silver class, ahead of Nigel Stock, the Crest Autosport bronze driver, who took the win in the sprint and a valiant effort to retain P5 in the feature race. And then lastly, Jack Barker, the silver class Made for Racing driver, who enjoyed a P7 and a P6 finish in the races respectively. Congratulations to all 3 of them on their performances today. And also thank you to them all for joining me in at the interview room once again. But with that, it's now time to wrap up. So thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, perhaps you're sat right there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for a future rendition of the GT3 League, or perhaps want to know more about other leagues that are ongoing, including the Proto GT3 Championship and also the Next Gen Racing Tourer Car Championship, also known as the NXTGEN. Well, the best place to find out all that information and more is to go to our website at nextgenracing.co.uk. For as you see our website appear on screen, is the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. And as we continue to go from strength to strength at Next Gen Racing, having hosted leagues for over 16.5 years on PC and console, We're now focused on PC in particular, on the iRacing Simulator platform. But we've got plenty planned for the remainder of 2023 and going into 2024. The sky is the limit when it comes to series at Next Gen Racing. But if you don't necessarily want to go to our website, you can, of course, go and follow us on social media. And the best place to do so is via our official Facebook group. And that's at www.facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Where there you can find out a little bit more about the staff and the admin team who make up Next Gen Racing and what we do, not just on the virtual circuit but also on the real circuit, with good number of our staff members being track marshals and or racing drivers in their own time. But now, speaking of own time, ladies and gentlemen, plenty of time for each and every one of our drivers is going to go into practicing for the next round number 5, 2 weeks from now. From Wednesday the 23rd of August 2023, we'll be seeing our drivers take on the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke, and as they take on the ultimate endurance circuit with over 100 corners, it is going to be a test of memory. It is going to be a test of patience, of stamina, and most importantly, the ultimate test of a driver's endurance to outlast the green hell. But the question is, as the championship makes its way into the second half of the season with round number 5, who will come away from there on top, and then they have taken on perhaps the toughest task that we set to them over the course of the season? Well, we'll find out then, but until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX11 Walsh, also known as Brit the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.